Imagine waiting the entire year to relax on vacation. You're expecting to enjoy the beautiful weather with your soulmate. You don't expect to cross paths with pure evil and never return home again. But that's exactly what happened to one couple in May of 2002, and this is their story. Deep dives. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. And if you've never been here before, my name is Kimbyrleigha. Nice to finally meet you. And guess what? We have a fun announcement today. The winner of the Crime Con tickets. And the winner is Kimberly Singleton. Congratulations, and please don't forget to check your email so that you get the tickets there. Thank you all so much for wanting to be part of this awesome event. I can't wait to meet you, and I will leave the link below in case you want to purchase a ticket. I also have a discount code. It's just my name, Kimber, for money off, and only the standard ones are left. Everything else is sold out, so hurry if you want to go. Today's story is a little different than the ones that I'm used to doing, and that's why I'm going to be telling it to you in a different way as well. I've been spending a lot of my time watching the Taylor Schabusiness trial, and this particular case came to mind while I was watching that trial. Something I heard made me think about this case, and I really wanted to talk about it. Even if you've heard it before, you might learn something new. Before we get into today's case, just give me a moment of your time to thank our most loyal sponsor, PDS Debt. I know that so many of you have already completed the free 30-second online debt assessment at pdsdebt.com/Kim, but if you haven't, I'd encourage you to do it so that you can see where your credit is and take control of your debt. That's how I got rid of my debt, and I finally have better credit, and the summer's here. I have 3 live events coming up, lots of traveling, buying food on the go, flights. It adds up. And getting those frequent flyer miles with every swipe of your credit card. I know no one wants to talk about it, but debt and finances, they're a touchy subject, but not one we should ignore. If you are trying to ignore your debt, you're most likely missing out on thousands of dollars you could be saving in interest and monthly payments, and there's a better solution with PDS Debt. The programs from PDS Debt make a real difference in your day-to-day life by saving you money the same day that you get started. It's easy. PDS Debt has customized zero-interest options for anyone struggling with credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, and collections accounts. They roll all of your payments into one low, zero-interest monthly payment. Everyone with over $10,000 in debt or more qualifies, and there's no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit is accepted. If you're making payments every month on your debt and your balances aren't going down, this program is for you. Save thousands in interest and fees and pay off your debt in a fraction of the time with PDS Debt, and they're offering a free debt analysis to my viewers for just completing this quick and easy online debt assessment at pdsdebt.com/Kim. That's pdsdebt.com/Kim. So check it out and take back your financial freedom today. Now let's get into the video. This story revolves around a very popular vacation destination. The reason the story is so horrifying to me personally is because I feel like it could happen to anyone. We all desire to have fun, to go on trips with our loved ones or friends, and we don't think anything bad is going to happen. But if you've been here for a while, you've probably watched my video on the Rogers family or Christine Lazaro, both of which revolve around a vacation. The location this time is Ocean City, Maryland. I've never been there, but it looks like the perfect fun-filled resort town with something for everyone. From miles of beautiful beaches to the iconic boardwalk, swimming, sunbathing, to building sandcastles on the beach, for many it's the perfect little getaway party town. The boardwalk is lined with arcades, rides, and shops, and at night it turns into bar hopping. Here you'll find a variety of bars, including the Purple Moose Saloon and the Drunken Crab. These bars are known for their live music, dancing, and party atmosphere, but if you're looking for something a little more low-key, you can head to the downtown area. Here you'll find bars like the Tap House, the Irish Pub, and the Green Turtle. It's a little slower pace, pun intended. These bars offer a more relaxed atmosphere with pool tables, darts, and other games, plus good food. This area attracts so many people, 500,000 people during the holiday and summertime. It's about 100 miles from Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, so it draws in residents from a lot of different locations that aren't too far away, but it feels like you are. In 2002, 4 lives will collide in this vacation beach town. Two couples hoping to get away from work and spend a fun-filled weekend in the sun. They'll be involved in one of the most horrific situations. But before I tell you how they meet and how they find themselves in Ocean City, I want to go back in time to introduce you to each one. Let's start with Erica Elaine Grace. And those are not two middle names. Grace is her last name. She also had a nickname, Lainey. She was born February 3rd, 1978 in Roaring Spring, Pennsylvania. Her parents were Charlotte Gale, who everyone called Cookie, and Gerald Mitchell Grace, who went by Mitch. Erica was the Graces' only child, and they gave her everything. And they could because they were well off. Mitch owned a contracting company and afforded the family a very comfortable lifestyle. With only one child to dote on, Erica got anything she wanted. She was the pride and joy. But with that pride came pressure, because Mitch always expected excellence from her. She was expected to be an overachiever. She was expected to become something. It was in junior high when Mitch found out that something for his daughter, basketball. Erica was very athletic from a young age, and she tried many sports, but she excelled at basketball. Once Mitch saw her potential, he knew that he had to be deeply involved in Erica's basketball career going forward to help mold her into a star athlete. You might say he was obsessed with her success. I can't help but think of Tiger Woods. His father, Earl, introduced him to golf at only 18 months old, and then coached him exclusively until he was 5 and got him a professional coach. Well, it seemed as though Mitch was very much like Earl with Erica. He took pride in work ethic. He said it was in their bloodline. He was a construction foreman at 20 years old, a superintendent at 21, and he started his own construction business at only 22 years old. So he expected Erica to carry the torch and the Grace family name with pride. Roaring Spring is a small town with only about 3,000 residents. When I was researching this area, I read that it was basically made up of a bunch of churches and houses, and that's pretty accurate. As I'm showing it on the map, there are at least 3 churches within very close proximity in such a small town. There's only one elementary and middle school, and they're right next to one another. Spring Cove Middle School. That is where Erica got her start on the court with her dad as the coach of her team. Sure, she was only a middle schooler, but Mitch had big plans for little Erica, and I say little not just because of her age. She was also very tiny, skinny. She was petite. And because she didn't have the height going for her, Mitch began honing in on Erica's skills as a point guard, which are referred to as the heart of the team. However, this position is usually best for an aggressive player, someone who's able to strongly lead the entire team. They're essentially the coach of the court, passing the ball to open players and pretty much calling all the shots. The thing is, Erica's personality off the court did not match up to the one that she had to portray on the court. Erica was shy. She could hardly speak unless she knew you. You would see her standing in a corner all by herself. But she knew well enough to know that on the court, she had to play her part, especially with daddy watching. In real life, Erica was a goody-goody. She was always concerned with not getting in trouble, even making sure to call out other kids who weren't following the rules. This was most likely due to her upbringing. Her mother was very strict, and of course Mitch, with his high expectations, it wasn't just in sports. Erica was expected to excel academically as well, and she did. She was always on the honor roll. Her home life consisted of being molded into pretty much the perfect child. She was pretty, she stood out, she was unique. She had very tight ringlet-like curls the many girls her age envied, because this was the time when perms were very popular. Everybody wanted those perfect curls, and they came naturally for Erica, which made her stand out, in addition to her big blue eyes and bright smile. An all-American beauty with brains to match. People that knew Erica's mom, Cookie, described her as the typical trophy wife, a former nurse who now spent her time looking after Erica and the household. She enjoyed shopping and decorating the home. And Mitch absolutely adored Cookie. They had a bond that was unbreakable. As Erica grew up, she admired the love and devotion her parents had for one another. Not even she could come between them. If they had to choose, they would choose each other over anything or anyone else every time. Erica hoped that one day she would have a relationship like theirs. It was a fairy tale marriage. Even though there were times when Erica said she felt like a third wheel, and she would express that to her friends. Mitch's dismissal caused a huge rift between him and others in the local basketball community. Erica was a starter on the varsity basketball team going into her freshman year at Central High School. That's something that was unheard of, which made Mitch appear as though he had somehow been able to influence this decision. But as Mitch fought for his daughter to get even more time on the court, he decided on a couple things. One was to gather up the best of the best players and form a AAU pickup basketball team. These are amateur competitive traveling teams, and this experience can be a valuable tool in gaining exposure to college coaches, which is what Mitch hoped for. The other decision he made was to move out of Roaring Spring and build a 2-story, 10-room, beautiful Tudor-style home in Hollidaysville, Pennsylvania. It had a big swimming pool in the backyard, but most importantly, a half-court indoor basketball court. Erica would refer to this home as the mansion, and it would be to most of us. Now, Erica could get private professional coaching and practice even more because the court was inside her house. That's dedication to his daughter, or maybe living vicariously through her. Every night, Mitch would be on the balcony overlooking the court, watching Erica train. And when she wasn't with her coach, he would spend hours passing the ball to her so that she could practice her 3-point shots, which was her go-to move. Her high school coach, Joseph Hurd, said that she had a fierce outside jump shot. Where they were living, just the name, Hollidaysburg, it says it all. It's called the best place to live in Pennsylvania. Another small town. The population has stayed under 6,000 for at least the last decade or so. Hollidaysburg is a historic town with a lot of charm. The reason many people want to live here is because the town is so close-knit. But the reason Mitch wanted to live here was probably because it's a small town where his daughter would be a very big fish. Just south, there's a bigger city called Altoona, where the population is much larger, about 50,000 people. So that's where all the businesses are, the restaurants, the popular hangouts. Speaking of hangouts, what about Erica's social life? Well, she was popular and well-liked growing up, mostly because of being a star athlete. She made some of her closest friends from the teams that she was on. One of those friends was Kristen Heinbaugh. She played on that same competitive team as Erica, and they got to know each other better than most. Erica wasn't into the things that other kids her age were getting into, parties, boys, drinking, no. Erica's main focus was to make her daddy proud and get a full college basketball scholarship. That meant keeping her grades up, so she would stay up all night, very late into the night after practice to make sure she finished all of her homework. She would get annoyed by other classmates that seemed to half-ass their work because she was a perfectionist. This made her the target of bullies in her high school. One time, someone broke into her locker and stole her papers when she didn't let them copy her homework. That's mean. But Erica remained unfazed and didn't let it bring her down. She kept being kind-hearted, hardworking, with integrity. However, she did date, she had boyfriends, but nothing too serious. Besides, she already had a man by her side all the time. Her dad, Mitch, was always with Erica, especially on the court, cheering her on, pushing her to be her best. But there was one thing he couldn't coach Erica to become, and he couldn't pay for it either. She couldn't be taller. That was what was stopping her from getting where she wanted to be. Erica only ended up getting a partial basketball scholarship to the University of Mary Washington. I had never even heard of this school, so I was curious why she even applied there and if she applied anywhere else. It just didn't seem like the best place for her to put her name on the map. Division III is the lowest level of competition in the NCAA. Division III schools tend to have the smallest athletic department and budget, so why there? Maybe because Mitch was hoping that being at a smaller school would help her stand out. Well, it turns out Erica may have been a star on her small town courts, but when she was playing college ball, she was maybe a little above average, and that was it. She was now a very small fish in a big pond. Still talented, but not exalted as this outstanding player that she once was as a teen. In the fall of 1995, Erica was also moving out of the house for the very first time and to Virginia, over 3.5 hours away from her parents. She wasn't under their watchful eye, so instead of focusing so much on basketball, Erica was enjoying other things that college life had to offer. The same things she used to turn down in high school: boys, partying, and drinking. Those were high on her list of things to do besides going to the beach. She loved being tan. She prided herself on being very well put together and looking her best. All that hard work, being the best at everything growing up, left her with another gift, perfectionism. But soon it became a curse. It evolved to become obsessive-compulsive in nature. Every hair had to be in place, every outfit spotless. This extended to her surroundings as well. Everything had to be organized. They all had their places, and they had to be in those places every time she put them back. If not, she would be overwhelmed with anxiety. So being organized helped her cope with her OCD. A routine for her was to place things in the exact spot every time when she came home. She would have a designated place for, let's say, her purse, for example. She knew it would be there, so she wouldn't have to spend even a second looking for anything, because not knowing where something was gave her an enormous amount of anxiety. Perfectionism is probably also why she didn't have a steady boyfriend. No one seemed good enough for Erica or to bring home to her family. Remember, she had very high standards for a man. Her parents had the ideal marriage. It was a lot of pressure. But as luck would have it, she met someone who she thought would make the cut. He was a handsome guy that she met at a bar one night in Fredericksburg near campus. It was the spring of 1998. Erica was 20 and a junior going into her senior year of college. Her freshman year, she made All-American point guard. And during her first 2 years, she was ranked as one of the nation's leading three-point shooters in her division. However, by the fall of her junior year, Erica, a history major, decided to quit playing basketball. Instead, she wanted to focus on her studies. Of course, when Erica quit, her parents were very disappointed. And maybe that's an understatement. Her dad had devoted so many years to supporting her, and he still was trying his best to even now. Her goal? To go to law school. Another goal was to possibly land a date with a handsome guy at the bar. His name was Benjamin Sifrit. It wasn't just his looks that Erica liked. It was who he was and all of his accomplishments. He was 20 like her, tan, blue-eyed, drove a decked-out orange 1972 Chevelle with black racing stripes. He was athletic. He excelled in swimming. Yet he felt he wasn't good enough to compete at a higher level, despite winning numerous awards and accolades. Sound familiar? A perfectionist, maybe? So instead of chasing his swimming dreams, he joined the Navy. He was born in Iowa, but his family moved to Texas and he attended Cypress Fairbanks High School. That's where he was a competitive swimmer. He worked at the YMCA, giving swimming lessons. He worked as a lifeguard at one point, a grocery store, and even at a locksmith. Benjamin, who went by BJ, was born a few months before Erica on October 21st, 1977. The son of Elizabeth and Craig, BJ had a younger sister as well, and by his senior year, the discipline of military life appealed to him. He wanted to be a Marine at first, but after his recruiting test, he scored so high that his recruiter encouraged him to become a Navy SEAL. Out of the 135 members of the amateur SEAL team, only 17 graduated, and BJ was at the top of his class. He was designated as Honor Man, which is very rare. Most times, an Honor Man won't even meet another Honor Man their entire life at random. But BJ, he finished first out of his whole class, and he was the youngest Navy SEAL to receive the prestigious Honor Man title at the time. This training is considered to be the toughest in the world, pushing recruits to their limits both physically and mentally. On average, only 25% of candidates make it through what they refer to as Hell Week. It's a 16-mile per week running regimen, 2 miles a day, for 3 days a week, and they have to do an 8-minute, 30-second pace. Week 4 increases this amount to 3 miles a day. And that's just running. After graduating from SEAL training, BJ was living in Virginia Beach. Erica was introduced to BJ, and right away, she was smitten. Very impressed with him. But he couldn't have cared less. There was only one thing on his mind, and it didn't include wasting his time on women. He was a SEAL. Well, Erica wasn't used to being rejected. She really wanted to see him again. She had actually just gone through a breakup. It was really hard on her. There were times where she would just break down to her friends, even putting herself in physical harm because of the split. She didn't do well with rejection at all. It was sadly another aspect of her OCD. She had a really hard time dealing with abandonment. This may have also stemmed from her dad spending so much time on her. She expected nothing less from the men in her life that she called hers. Well, BJ wasn't interested. However, as luck had it, later that year in July, they bumped into each other again. Or maybe Erica planned it. BJ was at a SEAL party in Virginia Beach, and this time, She was doing all that she could to impress him, and it worked. They really clicked that night, and they remained in touch. Ultimately, they became officially boyfriend and girlfriend. They were spending every single day together. Erica knew that BJ was the one. Her parents always expected to plan this extravagant wedding when the right guy came around. She was a daddy's girl after all, so Mitch planned on giving her a dream wedding. It was expected to be a large event filled with family and friends that loved Erica the most and would definitely want to be there to witness the matrimony. Erica knew just after a couple weeks of being with BJ, she wanted to introduce him to her parents. The truth was, she and BJ, maybe caught up in the honeymoon phase, they were already talking about getting married. However, Erica was keeping that very hush-hush. She didn't want to shock her parents too much with all of these sudden changes, plus she was still focusing on graduating from college. Cookie and Mitch were planning a little trip to New Jersey one weekend, and Erica thought this would be the perfect time to get everyone together. So she and BJ met them there. Erica was huge on documenting everything. Her camera was practically glued to her hand like our phones are now. She loved scrapbooking. It had become more than a hobby for her. It was a lifestyle. And as a former scrapbooker myself, I know how serious it can be. Anyone that can relate, leave it in the comments. I used to take full-on classes at my nearby scrapbooking store and made very intricate ones, and I would give them to family and friends. Erica loved collecting things, and scrapbooking was perfect because it was like collecting moments in time to look at over and over again, reminiscing about the feelings and the things she experienced. She also loved collecting designer handbags and jewelry, diamonds in particular. Following in her mother's Cookie's footsteps, she is the one that got her interested in all things sparkly from an early age. Cookie had entire glass cabinets with jewelry in them like you would see at Zales, like a jewelry store. Erica didn't deny it. She was materialistic. She told her friends, I come from a wealthy family. I have rich parents and rich grandparents and a rich aunt, so I was raised around it. It was normal to her. This trip was no exception when it came to documenting everything. She took tons of photos of her and BJ smiling happily and cuddling with one another. Eventually, she made an entire scrapbook dedicated to her new lover boy. Scrapbooking for Erica combined a few of her loves: collecting things, being creative, and traveling. Erica made it a point to explore. She loved traveling and making these scrapbooks for every place she went to visit, each one dedicated to a different destination. Just like other things in her life, this helped with anxiety. It was another way to channel her OCD by organizing her photos into books. BJ and Erica had a great time in New Jersey, but then they had to get back to reality with BJ in Virginia Beach and Erica taking classes in Fredericksburg. They would be 2.5 hours apart, and it was too hard for them. Luckily, it was the summertime, so Erica relocated closer to where BJ lived. From there, it was a party every night. Being a SEAL meant BJ worked hard and played even harder. He had a reputation among his friends for out-drinking, outrunning, and outlasting them in anything he did. He was very competitive. One friend said, BJ could go on a 2-day bender of drinking and partying and wake up the next morning, run a marathon with the Navy SEALs, and finish first. His tenacity and determination allowed him to excel at most situations. And those who knew him respected and admired him, especially Erica. BJ was the light of her life. Actually, her life revolved around BJ, and she wanted to keep him happy so that he wouldn't find someone else. Erica had a problem thinking that she was never good enough, most likely from her upbringing. So even though she wasn't a party girl, she would be because she wanted to be by BJ's side. Sometimes pulling all-nighters 7 days a week, running on little to no sleep. Even though having a serious relationship wasn't on BJ's list, when him and Erica got together, everything seemed way more exciting. She needed advice, so she turned to the first man in her life that she ever loved, her father. He would know what to do. She called him, letting him know that BJ was the one, the guy she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. He told her to essentially slow down, that being in love is very different than knowing someone enough to like being with them. He suggested moving in together first to really get to know each other before leaping into such a serious commitment. But Erica said she was against that. She didn't believe in living with someone unless she was married. But being inseparable was really hard. BJ had to continue to relocate when he had different assignments. When you're a SEAL, you have confidential assignments. That meant that BJ couldn't tell Erica what he was doing or where he was doing it. With the next move looming over them, BJ apparently dared Erica to marry him one night. Like, I dare you to go to Vegas and marry me. That sort of proposal. They had only been dating for 3 weeks. And in the rush of excitement, Erica said yes. Within no time at all, they were jet-setting to the Silver Bell Wedding Chapel for their quickie nuptials. Officially husband and wife, Erica Grace became Erica Sifrit. They couldn't have been more in love or excited. Being his wife was thrilling. He was everything she dreamed of and more. She brought him with her back home to Hollidaysburg soon after this, but they didn't tell her parents they were married. However, she did run into her high school friend, Kristen, who used to play basketball with her, and she wouldn't stop beaming from ear to ear about her new man, bragging about being married on a dare after only knowing him for 3 weeks. And Kristen was surprised. Sometimes you don't end up with the type of person that your friends imagined you would be dating when you were in high school. She was used to seeing Erica with the more nerdy, down-to-earth type, but taste changes and so do people. It's been a while since high school. Kristen, of course, congratulated Erica, and Erica just kept flashing her wedding band in her face. She was shocked she wasn't invited to the wedding, and that's when Erica admitted that they had eloped. It just seemed really out of character for her. But you know what? I heard a quote once that said, "You've changed." And it said, "How far back do you want me to go?" Change is hard for those who knew us when we didn't even know ourselves, and we are all ever evolving. With 1 year left in school, Erica tried to busy herself while BJ was off on assignment after assignment, but it was hard. They were lovesick, BJ was homesick. His dreams of being a Navy SEAL began to slide to the back burner, kind of how Erica's dreams had with her. But they both pressed on. From North Carolina, BJ was then sent to Arkansas in early 2000, and it was a lot for the newlyweds, especially because Erica had experienced BJ partying with his fellow SEALs, and she was scared that he would be unfaithful when they were apart. They couldn't keep their hands off one another when they were together, so she began to get really anxious about what BJ was doing on his own. No pun intended there. Or was it? Any chance she got, Erica would meet up with BJ. This was very much against the rules, and they got caught. This was not good for BJ. He was cited for insubordination, the first of many times. The fact that Erica and BJ couldn't be apart was interfering with being a SEAL, especially when he had to move to Alaska. Even though it was temporary, BJ had to depart for a 3-week cold weather training, and Erica had to take on the role of a single spouse. This time, it was different, but he had to go. He was only one of 6 men that were in the Naval Special Warfare Group detachment in Kodiak, Alaska. They were forbidden to even let anyone know where they were. But somehow, Erica, I don't know, she knew. Maybe he sent her a secret special message because guess what? He was only gone 1 day and she flew out to Alaska and met him at his doorstep. And of course, he let her stay in his room. And now this is a risk for many reasons, but one of the biggest ones was because BJ was a field medic. In order to achieve this position, he had to take a 36-week-long program plus continuing sessions every year. He also did work as an EMT in NYC, and he worked in an emergency room in Manhattan. He gained a lot of medical training. He knew how to manage casualties in combat situations. This meant BJ was in charge of medical devices and prescription drugs, ones like morphine, for example. Erica couldn't fly under the radar for long. They got caught. And it was a severe disregard of his role. He was swiftly reprimanded, but allowed to stay in the military. Well, not for long. By August 18th, BJ decided to take his Chevelle for a spin right through the base and out the gate, speeding over 50 miles an hour. There were Marines that were manning that gate, and they were shocked because they could have been hit or even killed. This was beyond not being brotherly. It put people's lives in danger. When he got back, he was put in the military jail, which is known as the Brig. Well, his mom, Elizabeth, she got the news and she could not hold it together. She had so many hopes and dreams for her son, and now he seemed to be just throwing it away for some girl he hardly knew. But to be fair, many parents want to control their children, even when they become adults. And as kids, you don't always know what path you want to go down, so you hold tight to the ones your parents carve for you, only to sometimes realize it's not the one for you, and then it's too late. Elizabeth flew out to be by her son's side with a lawyer in tow. And after all that, he still acted out of line the same month after being released. He just walked off base. His staff sergeant was like, "Where are you going?" And he basically told him, "F you," and he left anyway. This was against military law. You can't just leave whenever you want. When other officers tried to stop him, he told them to F off as well. He had a total disregard of what was once his dream. Ultimately, his military career ended when he was court-martialed. By October 2000, he was dishonorably discharged and then sentenced to 3 months in military prison. Wow. Now, he and Erica would have to be away from each other for an even longer period of time. Erica was distraught. She, of course, went to her parents and told them everything. They were certainly shocked when they found out that BJ was Erica's husband. It's not what they expected from her, their nearly perfect daughter, but they understood she was an adult. She could choose who she wanted to be with, and they wanted to be supportive. It was a lot to take in. She had worked so hard to graduate at the top of her class, and after all of BJ's hard work, he had nothing to show for it. However, he and Erica were determined to live on their own terms. Erica finished college. She graduated cum laude with a degree in history. After BJ was released, Erica's father wanted the couple to have a restart. He understood both of their challenges, and he always wanted to be that supportive dad. He decided to gift them with a 3-week trip to South America, to Chile, a getaway where they could regroup, bond, grow together as a couple, but most importantly, come up with a plan. I almost said, must be nice, but you know that's a no-no for me. I've taken that out of my vocabulary. Don't say it. It's out of my mind. Yes, it is nice that Erica's dad could afford to do this for them. And they did some soul-searching together, along with a lot of memory making, and it inspired them to come up with a business idea. Opening a scrapbook supply store together. They would have their own business, something they could build with one another, be proud of. They also opened up an eBay store where they would sell things. That was gaining a lot of traction back then. And they brought these ideas to Mitch. He agreed to finance the scrapbooking business for the young couple. They just had to find the perfect location. They looked in many different cities, but ultimately they decided to open their store in Altoona, Pennsylvania, very close to where Erica's family was. Reason 1, well, like I said, be close to home. But 2, because they went around and in all the other cities, there was already scrapbooking supply stores, but there wasn't one in Altoona. This meant they could kind of corner the market, so to speak. Be this one-stop shop for all of your memory-making needs. It would be called Memory Lane, but they spelled it like Erica's middle name, Elaine, so L-A-I-N-E. Erica had a lot of experience. She knew what people were looking for. Mitch was able to land a contract for a space at this shopping plaza right here on the screen. Now it has a Big Lots as the main store, but here is where they opened their business right at the end, where it looks like this vape store sits. It opened in April of 2001. Erica and BJ moved into an apartment above a large garage in Altoona where Mitch's company used to store their tools and equipment for contracting work. This was perfect. It was close to the scrapbook store, and it was close to her parents, and they could live rent-free until they were able to get a place of their own. That way they didn't have to worry about finances, and they could focus on building their business, and it was a success. It wasn't long before the store was bringing in over 6 figures a year, and that was good for a new business. And Erica and BJ, they were investing in merchandise and flipping it on eBay. I'm sure most of you know how it works, but back then that was a big deal. You would go out, you would find something on sale, and then you would upsell it on eBay auctions. The more rare an item was, the more it would sell for. And Erica stumbled upon the golden goose, Hooters apparel. Now, before you laugh, because I definitely wanted to myself, I was a Hooters girl when I turned 18, and it was a fond pastime of mine. Make fun of me, that's fine. And it's true. The shirts that Hooters waitresses wear are not for purchase. And there were many that were considered rare. So of course, they ended up being one of the best sellers on Erica and BJ's eBay store. Erica actually liked collecting them herself. I mean, why not? She's already going out of her way to get them. And I remember being offered money for mine from time to time. Of course, I would decline. However, when I traveled, I would bring along my Fort Lauderdale tank tops. And then when I went to other stores, I would trade them with other Hooters girls. It was so much fun. It was like trading baseball cards. So I could see the appeal right away. And I don't see this being mentioned where I've heard the story before. That is where the Hooters obsession came into play for Erica, buying and trading tanks and shirts for her eBay store. And they were really thriving at this point. They had a successful scrapbooking store, which was one of Erica's biggest loves of her life besides her husband. They could work together as a couple so they didn't have to be apart from one another. And they got to travel all over the country to visit different Hooters stores so they could get these coveted shirts to sell on their eBay store and then flip them, for even more cash than they invested. And all of this helped fuel even more business opportunities for them. But I told you the story was about two couples coming together in a vacation town. That other couple has not been introduced to you yet. And that's where I'm about to go. Back in time again, this time to Iowa on September 8th, 1969, almost a decade before Erica and BJ were born. Joshua Edward Ford came into this world. His parents, Doris and Alvin Ford, had already two children, Melissa and Mark. Initially, they were living in Cedar Rapids until Josh graduated from Kennedy High School in 1989, and the family relocated to Boston, where my dad is from. It was quite a culture shock for the family, but they were close-knit, they shared a deep love for one another, and an appreciation for their new city. Though transplants to this new place, it didn't take long for Josh and his siblings to feel like true Bostonians. Throughout their life, Josh and his brother were immersed in martial arts and fitness because their dad opened a karate gym once they were established in Boston. They would be at this gym multiple times a week practicing with their dad. It was a big part of their life. Mark was also very significant, and he influenced his brother to be as successful as possible. When Alvin opened his karate gym, he designed the logo himself. He was so proud of it. It was a red dragon with a yin-yang character. Alvin was so proud that he actually had it tattooed on his body. And then when his son Mark and then Josh got old enough, they also got their dad's logo tattooed on their arms. This was very significant to them. Josh was devoted to showing how proud he was about his father's karate studio, and he also wore a ring with a dragon carved into it. This was a token that commemorated both the karate studio that Josh loved and his tattoo. He never removed this ring. It reminded him of what a significant part it played in his life. Every time Josh glanced at that ring, he was reminded of all the memories he had made with his father. Boston was the perfect place for Josh to grow up. He was really into sports, and Boston has a very vibrant sports culture. Josh and his brother definitely enjoyed sports like everyone else, but a bit to the extreme, which is normal from where they were from in Boston. The brothers loved going to games, from the local teams to the major teams. They were passionate about sports, and that's how they bonded together. Josh would attend as many games as possible to show his support for his beloved Celtics, Red Sox, Bruins, and Patriots. And the brothers would constantly be talking about the games, the scores, the players, everything. Growing up, Josh had a longtime girlfriend that he met back in high school, and eventually the two got married in the early 90s. And 6 years after graduating, Josh's wife gave birth to a baby boy that they named Zachary in 1994. Josh's son was his world. It was like he was born to be this little boy's father. His world revolved around raising his son, dedicating time to teaching him, loving him, and being there for him as much as he could, which proved to be harder once Josh decided that him and his wife were going to get a divorce. However, unlike some couples who despise their exes, this wasn't how Josh and his ex-wife operated. Just because it didn't work out between them didn't mean that they didn't have love and respect for one another. They continued to be in each other's lives for their son, who was able to see both of them anytime he wanted. They had a very healthy co-parenting relationship. They were still a family as far as being loving towards one another was concerned and making sure they were the best parents to their son. Josh was determined to stay a significant part of his son's life. Zach grew up admiring his father immensely. They had a very close bond. Josh was charismatic. He was loud. He was the life of the party, and people were drawn to him. And the more they got to know him, the more they loved him. He was always trying to make people laugh and smile, and he would always lend a hand to those in need, even strangers. He did a lot for others, but he didn't have the desire to get too close to anyone in particular when it came to romantic relationships, especially after his divorce. He would date here and there, but he just wasn't interested in settling down. However, he was interested in getting to know new people and exploring different relationships. He just wouldn't stay with one woman too long. Commitment phobic, I guess, at the time. But that would change. It was 1999. Zachary was 5 years old. Josh was working as a mortgage broker, and he was invited to a friend's Christmas party in Boston. And that's where he met Martha Margene Crutchley, whom everyone called Jeannie. She was a beautiful blonde with bright blue eyes and a big smile. The two connected right away. One thing that was different about Jeannie was her age. She wasn't like the girls that Josh was used to dating, considering she was 19 years and 1 week older than Josh. Born September 1st, 1950 in Alexandria, Virginia, Josh was 30 and Jeannie was 49 at the time, but it didn't deter them from getting to know one another, and it's a good thing because they started to date and Josh's friends and family could see right away, even his son, Zach, that he had never been happier. They connected like they were soulmates. They didn't connect like this with anyone they had met before. Jeannie was also so great with Josh's son. Zach liked her a lot. He saw how happy she made his father. Jeannie was one of the nicest people. She was generous, kind, and perfect for his dad. And that's a big deal for a single parent. They hope their children like their partner and vice versa, because it's usually a deal breaker if your partner doesn't like your kid or your kid doesn't like your partner. Children can be the best judge of character sometimes. It's like they have an ability to see past people's superficial charm and BS, the things that adults can sometimes overlook. But Jeannie was perfect for Josh. She was an intelligent, hardworking insurance executive who had been in the business for a very long time, and she was very serious about her job, and Josh was too. They made a great match. They were self-described workaholics, but they also liked to kick back and have some fun. They were serious about one another and their future, so when Josh was offered a promotion that required him to move to Virginia, they didn't hesitate to take the opportunity. In April 2001, they moved to Fairfax, Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. Zach was sad because his dad was going to be over 7 hours away, and he was excited that his father would be close to such a historically significant part of the country. He could not wait to explore with him. Josh made it a point to spend the summers and holidays with his son. The summer of 2001 was so much fun. They went sightseeing, they went to baseball games. Zach was so happy. They had a blast. And Josh made sure he gave him a lot of attention because he knew that they would be apart after the summer. But before the summer was over, tragedy struck the Ford family. Josh's older brother Mark called with some very concerning news. Mark's 23-year-old daughter Kelly Ford was missing. Sadly, Kelly had been battling substance abuse. She was living in Project Cope, a residential program providing substance abuse rehabilitation services to women. Kelly was a mom to a 4-year-old little girl named Summer. So despite her difficulties, she was determined to improve so that she could be part of her daughter's life. She worked hard to overcome her addiction. Her disappearance was heartbreaking for the entire family, especially her uncle Josh. They were very close. Kelly was last seen at 1:30 p.m. on August 15, 2001. She had just passed a drug test and she was on her way to a job interview. But apparently at 8:15 p.m. that evening, her mother, Debbie, received a phone call from Cope that Kelly had not returned from her job interview. Debbie was told it wasn't uncommon for people in recovery to run away, but she knew her daughter would never do that, even on her worst days, substance abuse or not. And Debbie was worried. She was confused. She had no idea what could have happened to her daughter. She even hoped and prayed that Kelly would be found and that maybe she just had a relapse. She was praying for that because at least it meant her daughter was alive. And that's really sad, but I can understand how a mother would feel. Well, the search was on, and of course the entire family was on edge, keeping up with every little detail in the case. And there was nothing for weeks. No one could locate Kelly. This is Josh's niece. It took a toll on everyone. And 2 months later, they got even more devastating news. 2 men were playing Frisbee on Cape Cod, and they noticed something in the sand. It looked like a bone. They quickly jump up, they call the police, and a forensic pathologist came out there to observe. It was determined to be the body of a young woman. It looked as though this was a makeshift grave on the top of a small dune. Upon further examination, the pathologist determined the female died of homicidal violence. However, they could not identify who this woman was, and they needed to find out. They called nearly 100 police departments around Cape Cod looking to see if there were any missing women who matched the description of their Jane Doe, but there were not. Unfortunately, the investigation ultimately led to the identification of Kelly Ford. On October 30th, 2001, a police detective on Cape Cod called Debbie for a description of one of Kelly's tattoos, a Chinese character for love. Based on this description, the detective traveled from Cape Cod to Boston, where dental records reviewed by a medical examiner and jewelry that was recognized by her family positively identified her as 23-year-old mom Kelly Ford. She had been murdered. It was unbelievable, and the killer was still out there. This was a gruesome murder. Her heart had been ripped from her chest. Her head was missing, and they had no suspects. They thought this was probably a serial killer. So by the spring of 2002, the case was still unsolved. The family had yet to experience any closure. And after such a tumultuous year of 2001, Jeannie and Josh wanted to just give themselves a break. In May of 2002, Memorial Day was coming up. They knew they would have a longer weekend and a day off work, so they booked a room at the Atlantis condominiums in Ocean City, Maryland for a quick little weekend getaway. They'd spend some time relaxing, and then they would be back home and to work by Tuesday the 28th. They had to be because Jeannie had a big meeting scheduled at 10 a.m. that day, so they would drive out Friday after work on the 24th, hang out until Monday night on the 27th when the traffic died down, and then make the 3-hour trip back to Virginia. Also 3 hours away were BJ and Erica out in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where they were now living and working at their store. They too saw a fun opportunity to go on vacation for Memorial Day. Mitch wanted to treat them to something special for 2 reasons. One, for working as hard as they were. He was aware that they would be there all night, all day. Sometimes he would see BJ sleeping. They were stocking, cleaning the store. It was a lot. So he thought they could use a break. But the second reason was because they never got to go on a honeymoon. Mitch had a friend who owned a condo in Ocean City. Mitch's construction company had actually done some renovation work on it. So whenever he or his family wanted to get away, all they had to do was ask. So Mitch booked the couple a suite for a week at the Rainbow Condominiums in Ocean City. He and Cookie, they agreed to take care of the scrapbook store while the couple was away. In the 1970s, Ocean City had earned a reputation as a popular beach town with something for everyone, as I explained in the introduction. It was great for families, couples, singles. There was plenty to do, from beach activities to boardwalk attractions. The locals and tourists of Ocean City loved it. They felt safe. I mean, there were like the occasional noise violations and disorderly conduct going on there, but for the most part, it was a great town. It was well maintained and a fun place to spend a day or weekend, especially on a holiday weekend like this. You know, if you've been here, how much I love to learn about locations, where they were staying, what they were doing. I want to understand everything that was going on. And this area, it has a stretch of beach for 30 miles, a 3-mile boardwalk. And most people who come here that really want to experience everything the city has to offer, they would stay in a hotel or a condo on the beach. But on the other side is the bay, and both of them have awesome views. A lot of restaurants are actually on the bay side, just across Coastal Highway. But the boardwalk is on the beach side, so a lot of people prefer that side. Well, Josh and Jeannie, they picked this condo right here, the Atlantis, and it was great. Located right on the beach. It's got a pool. It's close to all the restaurants and bars. And the room, it was more than what you would get in a hotel because it would accommodate a longer stay with a full kitchen, a laundry, a living room, and a nice oceanside patio balcony. Now, just a 4-minute drive away and 6-minute walk, that was where BJ and Erica were staying at the Rainbow Condominiums. I have to say, this condo is definitely a step up. It's a little more luxurious because, of course, Mitch was able to get this for his daughter and his son-in-law because he knew the guy. It was on the 11th floor penthouse suite, 2 stories, beachside, big pool, balcony patio, a little bit more private, and a jacuzzi tub in the bathroom. Really nice place for a little getaway. And there's also a Hooters there. So, of course, BJ and Erica were planning on getting some exclusive merchandise and maybe trading some tanks from other locations so they can go back home and flip them on eBay. It was perfect. Everything was set. Erica grabbed a bunch of Hooter tanks that she already had on hand because she was hoping to get one from Ocean City because she didn't have one of those in her collection yet. So now you know that both couples are here in Ocean City. Josh and Jeannie arrived on Friday, and BJ and Erica came Saturday, May 25th. Erica had just gotten her nails done that day, and by noon, they set off in their Jeep Cherokee. They stopped to get some beer and snacks before heading up to their penthouse suite, 1101. Erica was eager to make her way down to Hooters. That was their first stop. They ordered a couple pitchers of beer, and they had some of their famous hot wings. I don't eat meat anymore, but I used to love their naked hot wings. Erica did her typical routine. She was being nice to the waitress, and then she revealed that she had some shirts to trade, and they also took a ton of pictures for Erica's scrapbook. They were having a lot of fun. Erica ends up asking the waitress, where's the best place to go to hang out around here for drinks and dancing? The waitress was like, hands down, it's Secrets. Now, this place is spelled S-E-A-C-R-E-T-S, Secrets, like the sea. And it is the most popular destination in Ocean City. However, it's a 21-minute drive or over an hour walk. This beach is long, but Ocean City, They had set up a bus system, and the locals and the tourists, they referred to it as the drunk bus. It operated from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. and then on demand from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. It would come by every 20 minutes at various stops on the Strip. And there was a stop right in front of BJ and Erica's condo, so it was perfect. It takes you to the most popular destinations, and it's only a couple bucks. So it's cost-effective and safe for people who are out there drinking and don't want to drive. They decide to head back to their condo and then get ready for a night out. Meanwhile, Josh and Jeannie had jumped into Jeannie's maroon Acura and made their drive to Ocean City. The first stop they made was to a grocery store in town. They wanted to fill their kitchen, stock it up on snacks and food so that they could cook and they didn't have to spend all their money on eating and could indulge in other things that weekend, like the liquid diet perhaps. I mean, they were on vacation, they could do that. So they came back, they unloaded the groceries, and then they laid low for the first night because they worked all day and had this long drive. But there was a Celtics game the next night on Saturday. So they planned on going to get some food and drinks at a sports bar and watch the game. Then make their way out for some drinks and fun at a bar. 4 days later, on Tuesday, May 28th, Fairfax Police Department gets a call from a worried coworker of Jeannie's. She said she never showed up for that meeting that morning, and there were 25 people waiting on her. It was extremely out of character. Even when Jeannie was away, she was working, she was on top of it, she was on her computer making calls, and even checking in with her employees. She never missed a meeting in over 20 years. But then the communication just stopped, and now she was nowhere to be found. They had already made contact with Jeannie and Josh's family and friends to see if anyone had heard from them. Josh was also missing from work on Tuesday, and Josh's brother Mark said the last time he spoke to his brother was the evening of Saturday, May 25th. Josh had called Mark after the Celtics game. Mark recalled it being really loud in the background as though Josh was out at a bar and he couldn't hear him very well. So they exchanged some small talk about the game and how excited they were that the Celtics beat the Nets by 4 points. And Mark asked Josh how him and Jeannie were doing at the beach, and he said that they were having a great time. But Mark let him know, hey, I just completed an exhausting 12-hour shift. I'm tired. I gotta go. Call me tomorrow. That was the last time they connected. Mark just figured Josh was enjoying his vacation, and he didn't want to bother him. No one had heard from Jeannie since that day either. She had checked in with her colleagues on Saturday here and there, but after that, it was silence. She wasn't returning anyone's calls, emails, nothing. Well, these were adults. If they chose not to keep in contact on vacation, so be it. It was up to them. So this wasn't a full-blown investigation yet. But after they didn't show up for 48 hours, Fairfax police decided to reach out to Ocean City Police Department on the morning of Wednesday, May 29th. As the Fairfax detective Mike Boone spoke with Ocean City officers, he asked if there was any missing people from Virginia that had been reported, and after looking over files, he discovered there were not. Detective Boone let the OCPD know that a Virginia couple, 51-year-old Martha Crutchley and her 32-year-old boyfriend Joshua Ford, had been staying at the Atlantis condominiums, and he provided the unit number. Before he hung up, he made mention that Martha went by Jeannie, and he provided a description of her vehicle, a maroon Acura with a special custom license plate with her name on it. It just said Geney, Jeannie. This would make it easier to spot among all the vehicles in Ocean City. Detective Scott Burnell was briefed on what was going on. He was actually just getting off from a graveyard shift that morning, but knowing that there was a couple missing in his beach town, he wanted to be part of the search right then and there. However, his supervisor, he ordered him to go home. They didn't have the budget to support his overtime. He told them, you could pick up on the details at your next shift. But for the first time in his career, Detective Burnell disobeyed orders. There was just something that pulled him to start looking right then and there. He said it was a gut feeling. Now, since it was after Memorial Day, the crowds had died down to almost nothing. People had all headed back home. The front parking lot to the Atlantis condominiums was entirely empty, except in the far corner where Burnell spotted a maroon Acura. He knew right away this is the car he's looking for, and he could tell it had been there for a while. There were leaves, sand, and debris under the tires and dust all over it. He walked to the rear of the vehicle and confirmed that it was Jeannie's by the license plate. Now it was time to make his way up to the room and see if they had perhaps just decided to stay a little longer than expected, extend their vacation a few more days to have some fun in the sun. Detective Burnell was accompanied by OCPD officer Brian Brown, and they didn't even need a search warrant because at this point, they were conducting more of a welfare check. So a manager let them inside the unit, and right away, Burnell had a gut instinct that told him that something wasn't right. First off, Josh and Jeannie weren't inside. Secondly, it was like everything was frozen in time, as though they had just disappeared. Josh and Jeannie's personal belongings were everywhere. One may assume they truly did just decide to stay longer. After all, these were not hotels. They were independently owned condos, so they didn't keep records of guests. That was up to the owner of each individual unit. It's kind of like an Airbnb. And considering this was now off-season, the owners would have most likely trusted that their vacation guests had left, and unless the unit was booked again soon, they probably wouldn't have housekeepers going in to clean it yet. It had only been a couple days at this point. They were doing a walkthrough. In the kitchen, there were opened potato chip bags on the kitchen counter next to a grocery bag, and an empty cooler that looked like it hadn't even been used yet. There was also a few wine bottles. Some of them were open. A couple knives were on a glass cutting board. There was a cigar cutter. A half-empty glass of wine was sitting on the sink. And then there was another one inside the sink. That one was empty, along with a coffee cup and a couple plates, a Tupperware container, and a few forks and knives. It looked as though they were just waiting to clean them. Like Josh and Jeannie had had a quick bite to eat, hung out, had a glass of wine or two, left, and figured they would just clean up later. There was an empty wine bottle in the trash, along with a chip bag and some paper towels. A receipt on the counter showed all of the groceries that were purchased, and it was dated for Friday, May 24th. Burnell looked in the fridge and in the cabinets, and he took note that most, if not all of the items were still there. They hadn't been eaten. Burnell made his way to the dining area. You can see there's a table just past the kitchen. The chairs didn't even look like they had been pulled out and sat in. There were items on top of the table, so they quickly scanned that area. If you're not looking at the screen, that's okay. I always describe the things that I'm talking about, but I do have pictures of all this if you're curious. On the table, there was an open camera bag with a camera next to it. A CD holder that was open and unzipped just lying on the table. You can see some of the CDs inside. Next to the camera bag was a black sun visor, and in front of that was a Patriots ball cap. These items being there indicated to Burnell that the couple had most likely taken them off after being out during the day when they came back to the room. There was also an empty cup and what appeared to be a stack of work papers, folders, and a laptop computer at the end of this table. Moving into the living room area now, they see a black bag next to one of the chairs, and there's a snack bowl with some popcorn still left in it on the coffee table. This was in front of the couch, and there were also 2 wine glasses. They were half empty with some playing cards and 2 stacks, as though 2 people were playing just before they left. There was a pair of men's loafers. They were untied, lying next to the couch in the living room, an ashtray with a cigar and cigarette and a little bit of weed in there too. Moving on, they went to the outside balcony patio. There were a few chairs, a table, another snack bowl, an empty wine glass, an empty cup, and a few tubes and bottles of sunscreen, along with a fly swatter. Okay, so onto the bedroom. The bed looked a little disheveled. The comforter was no longer on. The top sheet was kind of hanging off, like it had been pulled that way. You could kind of see the box spring underneath. The pillows seemed to be used. There was a head impression still in the top of one of them that was leaning on another one underneath. And there was a third pillow in the middle of the bed. Several magazines were at the side of the bed on the floor next to the side table, and there was an empty glass on that side table. A purse was located on top of the bed, along with a wallet. As Burnell peered inside the open purse, right away he sees Martha's work badge with her name and picture on it. There's a pen laying nearby, a wallet that contained a number of credit cards, debit cards, bank cards, calling cards, an ID with Martha's name on it from George Mason University. Inside the purse, they found a receipt. It was dated the night of Saturday, May 25th at 9:25 p.m. from the Green Turtle. It was for 2 draft beers, a soda, 1 8-ounce New York strip, 1 bowl of crab soup, and a large shrimp dinner totaling $49.23. The closet had men's and women's clothing still hanging inside, but it appeared that 2 of the empty hangers may have had clothing on them before being taken off and worn, since those 2 hangers were in the middle of ones with items on them. Next to the foot of the bed was what appeared to be a bath mat, which was kind of odd, and near the window was a window blind. It had either fallen down or been taken off. You can see it right here, laying on the floor. Onto the bathroom, they find all of the couple's toiletries scattered on the bathroom counter. Toothpaste, a hairbrush, men's razor, foundation, a comb, couple toothbrushes, and a blow dryer, among all kinds of normal everyday items. Clearly, Josh and Jeannie had planned to come back to the room. Now, something I picked up on, and maybe you did too, it seems like there's a lot of wine glasses and cups considering that only Josh and Jeannie were renting this room. I counted at least 4 wine glasses at all different levels of wine. And of course, they could have had several drinks, but usually you just refill your glass, not dirty another one. Burnell noticed this too, and this led him to believe that they may have had company over and they were taken or something worse. So he immediately called the station and wanted to designate this room as an official crime scene. With only 2 receipts located in the room, one dated the 24th and the other the 25th, it appeared as though the couple hadn't been back after that date. They had Jeannie's car towed for analysis and to keep it in a secure place. And when Burnell got back to his office, he made calls to all the local police departments, as well as ones in neighboring states of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. He was checking to see if anyone had been reported missing or if they were incarcerated. He also checked if there were any Jane or John Does that had been picked up, and none had. No Josh and no Jeannie. Detective Burnell realizes because this is a vacation town, many people who were there when Josh and Jeannie arrived were most likely already gone. So he was trying to work fast to get flyers printed out, passed out everywhere, up and down the boardwalk, at all the different bars and restaurants. They were hoping that someone may recognize them. They also want to head over to the Green Turtle Bar and see if any of the servers remember seeing this missing couple. Here's what the flyers look like. It had both of their pictures on it, their height, weight, eye color, hair color, as well as a brief description of when they were last seen or spoken to. Burnell also checked their credit cards and bank records and their cell phone records. There was no activity past Saturday night on the 25th. But so many people come here to do activities like boating and hiking, and they didn't know if somehow they went away on an excursion and they got hurt. They could be anywhere. Burnell wants to know if any emergency calls had come in on Saturday night or maybe anytime that weekend. He wants a log of all of those 911 calls. That's when he's informed that one came in at 3:01 on Sunday morning, 3:01 a.m., followed by an additional one not too long afterward. And that call had ended abruptly. It was disconnected. So of course, Burnell wants all the information on this call. He gets the transcripts and then he requests the audio. I'm just going to tell you what the audio revealed. So the operator had picked up and said, Ocean City Police. The voice on the other end was that of a woman. She was speaking loudly. She was saying, hello. And the officer replied, yes. That's when she heard some kind of clicking. And then the operator said, hello, Ocean City Police. And the woman on the other line said, yes, again. Confused, the operator said, ma'am, did you want the police? She's now frustrated. She's wondering what this woman wants. She's not spitting it out. And she says, yes, I do. Sorry. The operator started to ask where she wanted the police, but the woman interrupted her. She said, yes, I did, but I think someone is on the line right now listening. And then there was a pause. The woman did not sound very coherent. And they get a lot of drunk calls in this area. It didn't sound like there was an actual emergency going on at the time. And the operator just kept saying hello, and there was silence. Then all of a sudden, the woman said, do you have a direct line I can call you back at? And the 911 operator said, yeah, and she gave the woman a number to call. The woman said, okay, thanks. And she hung up. She didn't call the direct line, but about an hour or so later, another 911 call comes in, similar in nature. The operator picks up, says, 911, what's your emergency? The woman is now whispering. She's like, yes, I have an emergency at my apartment. Still sounding a little incoherent. The operator said, what kind of emergency do you have? The woman said, there are people in my house that I don't know, and my purse is suddenly missing. I think I'm going to have a robbery here. And then she said, there's an emergency here. Send somebody fast. The operator was trying to confirm by saying, okay, there's people in your apartment at this time. And the woman repeated, yes. And the operator told her that she was going to connect her with the police and to stay on the line. But then the woman said, hey, and interrupted her again. The operator said, what? And the woman said, I'm in an upstairs bedroom. They don't know where I am. The operator told her, okay, I'm going to connect you to the police. You can tell them everything. There was a moment of silence, and then an officer came on the line. The woman said, hi, there are people. But then as she began that sentence, the line just went dead. Detective Burnell is concerned. This was a woman saying that she was in trouble. She sounded intoxicated in the middle of the night and was apparently hiding from intruders. However, no officers were sent out there. For one, they didn't get a location from the woman. And though it may seem like it's normal to trace calls, that's not exactly how these things happen. So nothing came out of this call, except concern now, days later. Burnell is trying to piece together what happened to Josh and Jeannie. Could this have been Jeannie? Well, back home in Boston, Josh's friends and family and ex-wife were worried sick. Josh had not contacted Zach in days. He never went this long without calling him. With what happened to Josh's niece Kelly being murdered and dismembered on a beach in Cape Cod, this whole situation seemed unreal. It brought back so many horrible memories and feelings from when Kelly was first reported missing, and they knew what the outcome was. The killer was still not found. Josh's ex-wife was filled with worry and fear. She knew she was going to have to tell her son the news. She dreaded the conversation. She didn't know how it was going to impact him. When Zach came home from school that day, he noticed his mom and his stepdad crying at the kitchen table. His mom told him his father had gone missing. Zach was only 8 years old. He was full of confusion and fear. He didn't understand what was happening. What do you mean they're missing? Like, where? Is he coming back? It's so hard for a child to understand. He believed that his father was going to be okay. He just wanted to know, like, when am I going to see him again? His young mind could not comprehend the gravity of this situation. All he wanted was to be reunited with his father, and everyone was hoping that that would happen soon. But it wasn't looking good. It was Thursday, May 30th. Almost a week had passed since Josh and Jeannie set off on their getaway. Burnell and colleagues were heading out to the Green Turtle. The day manager told them they would need to speak to the night manager and the night staff because the couple was there at 9:25 p.m. on Saturday. However, they did have surveillance, and sure enough, it captured the couple. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary at all. They were just enjoying some food and some beer watching the Celtics game. So the investigators had to wait to speak with the night staff. Meanwhile, Burnell was informed of the gruesome murder of Josh's niece, Kelly. Something seemed off. The connection, it was two beach towns. They didn't know much about Josh at this point, so they had to run every theory in their minds. They began to think that maybe Josh had something to do with this. Just the summer before his niece goes missing and she's found dead, he's dating this much older woman. Was there a chance he was after her money or he just snapped? I mean, they looked happy, but we all know the looks don't mean much. Or could Jeannie be the culprit? Could she be conning this young guy somehow? Could there have been an accident of some kind? They had to look into everything. And one of those things was also Jeannie's ex-husband. He had been calling nonstop, asking all kinds of questions. And though it seemed helpful, it also seemed suspicious. They looked into him too. And at least they were able to rule him out as a suspect so they could move on in their search. The Criminal Investigation Division of the OCPD was working the case. They still had no leads. They go back to the Green Turtle when the night staff is there, and they ask around once again, and finally one of the servers says she remembers the couple. She said they stood out because they were so polite. The server explained that she remembers them eating, but cannot say where they went or what they did after they paid their bill. As the detectives were canvassing the area around the Green Turtle, which was their one and only lead at this point, they noticed a bus stop, and that was the drunk bus. They thought that maybe Josh and Jeannie may have hopped on this bus after dinner since they know their car was in the same spot it had moved back at the condo. After an extensive search of the transit logs for the evening of May 25th, detectives eventually locate the bus driver, and he confirmed that he remembered the couple taking his bus that night. The bus driver echoed what the server had said. He remembered them because they were incredibly friendly and kind. They got on the bus near a stop at the Atlantis condos, and they sat in the front. They rode the bus for a few stops, and then he recalls they pulled up to another condo, and a couple boarded the bus. They attempted to pay with a $20 bill, and the driver said, "Exact change only, sorry." And the couple realized they did not have exact change, and unfortunately, the driver can't take anything but exact change because he can't give you anything back. So the couple's looking around in his pocket and her purse, while the passengers, a lot were already intoxicated. They're annoyed because these people are holding up the bus. Finally, the guy's like, "I have a $5." And again, the driver said, "Exact change only." So the dude is waving the $5 bill and he's asking if anyone on the bus had change. Josh spoke up. He asked the couple where they were headed and they said secrets. Josh and Jeannie were too. So he stepped up and took care of the couple's fare. The guy looked at Josh and said, "Thanks, man. I'll get you and your girl a drink when we get to the bar." That's all the driver remembered. He dropped a bunch of passengers off right in front of Secrets that night, and that's all he knew. This is good. It meant that detectives had another location that they could search and interview staff. So that's what they do. Staff members say they recall seeing Jeannie and Josh. They were with a few other people, including another couple, and they were hanging out. They were outside in line for about an hour, and then they made their way inside where they had drinks. No one had any idea what time they left or if anything out of the ordinary happened. But in just a few hours, they were going to get their biggest lead yet. After midnight on May 31st, OCPD officer Jason Hart got dispatched to a Hooters nearby. Apparently, a silent alarm had gone off, and him and his partner, Officer Freddie Howard, they drove out to find out what was going on. It was after closing time on a Thursday night, now into the early morning on Friday. When they pull up, they see a bunch of merchandise sitting outside on benches right outside the restaurant near the entrance of their gift shop. It appeared that they had pulled up in the middle of a robbery. They see a man and a woman bringing clothing items out of the store. The man stops. He puts his hands up in the air and he says, "Okay, we stole it, but can we just put it all back?" Howard, without responding at all, he grabbed the man's arms, put him in handcuffs, and then he starts frisking him. He finds a gun in his waistband, and it's loaded. He's also strapped, but there were no weapons inside the holster, just a couple clips. Howard makes the guy sit down on the curb, and then he went to the woman, who at this point is having some sort of medical emergency. She can't breathe, and she's sitting there with her hands above her head, and she's gasping for breath. And Howard grabbed a hold of her. He felt around to make sure she wasn't armed. That's when he finds a knife. It's the type with a clip on the pocket or inside your waistband so you can put it somewhere. Well, it was clipped in place right in her waistband. Then he finds a gun. In the back of her waistband, it's actually shoved far down enough that it was hidden between her booty crack. She repeats what the man had asked if they could just go and put all the stuff back. What? That is not how this works. Howard had her sit against a wall, and he could see she was having a really hard time keeping it together. She kept saying, "Officer, I need help. I need my medicine, please." When the officer has someone in their custody, they're responsible for what happens to them, and without medics on scene at the moment, he was doing all he could to try to remedy what looked like some kind of minor medical issue. So she instructs him to please go to her vehicle and get her purse. Her medications are inside. Howard told her to try to stay calm. He went to go look for her meds. And I have to say, some officers have so much patience. I was watching a video the other day of a DUI. This woman was in the middle of the intersection, totally fell asleep at the wheel, and she was just going off on these officers. I don't know how they keep it together because I don't have the patience. As Howard made his way over there, he finds the woman's bag. He looks inside. He's looking for medicine, but he sees a wallet, and he figures while he's at it, he's going to find out who this woman is. He opens it up. He finds 2 driver's licenses inside, a man and a woman's. He hands them over to the other officer. They run the names, and they realize there's a missing persons alert out for them. It's Martha Crutchley and Joshua Ford. Wow. So they're sitting here. They just stumbled upon these 2 missing people, or supposedly missing people, in the middle of robbing a store. They also had social security cards for the couple and a fitness club membership with Jeannie's photo on it. They look at the vehicle. There's black tape on the license plate. Maybe they really don't want to be found. But as he's analyzing the information on the report, he realizes the missing woman is 51 years old, and the person that he's staring at sitting against the wall doesn't look a day over 30. So something is not adding up. So Detective Burnell is called to the scene, obviously, because this is his case. He immediately walked up to the woman in custody. He read her Miranda warnings, and then he asked her, "How do you know Martha Crutchley and Joshua Ford?" She tells Burnell she has no idea what he's talking about. He further explains what he's referring to. The 2 IDs that were in your bag? Still, the woman just sitting there like a deer in the headlights. Burnell shows her the missing persons flyer. She says she's never seen those people before. She doesn't have a clue how their IDs would end up in her bag because she knows she didn't put them there. But there's something else in her bag. Something that concerned the officers even more than finding the IDs. Spent shell casings. The woman explains she's just now learning how to use her new gun. Her husband had been showing her, and she kept the shell casings as a memory. Like the first time shooting, I don't know. There was a 3rd handgun found inside their vehicle in the center console. What in the world is going on here? What is their connection to the missing couple? Underneath the gun, detectives find a lock-picking kit, as well as masks and gloves. They keep searching and they find flex cuffs. These are like zip ties that are pre-formed into handcuffs. They take the tape off the license plate, they run it in their system, and it doesn't take long before they know both of the names of the couple that they have in custody. It's none other than 24-year-old newlyweds Erica and BJ Sifrit. What are they doing? They're not broke. Why would they be stealing from Hooters? Well, you and I both know why. This was ideal for them. What's better than bribing waitresses to give you rare items and one-of-a-kind memorabilia? Stealing it, of course. Wow. And they had clearly come prepared. Look at everything they removed already. There was a ton of hats. They even took a cigarette display with a bunch of packs of cigarettes. There were backpacks, sweatshirts, Hooters vanity license plates. I mean, wow. They put Erica and BJ in separate cop cars and bring them down to the OCPD for questioning. Meanwhile, they're rifling through the couple's Jeep. And that's when Burnell takes note of a parking pass in the front window. It's for the Rainbow condos. He thinks, oh my God, with all the items we just found, maybe Erica and BJ have held this couple hostage. So they immediately head over there hoping that it's not too late and they haven't been harmed. Considering Erica has spent bullet casings in her possessions, guns, knives, they have no idea what they're going to find. Burnell is able to get confirmation that Erica and BJ are indeed staying at the Rainbow condominiums, and they have been since Saturday the 25th, the same night that Josh and Jeannie had been last seen. Burnell called to get medical assistance to the scene in case they stumbled upon the couple in distress. At first, the property manager would not allow Burnell inside without a search warrant. Understandable, but he explains the evidence that they found in BJ and Erica's possession, and they have a reason to believe that Josh and Jeannie are in danger. So they're allowed to enter under exigent circumstances. The penthouse suite is 2 stories. There's an upper and lower level. They enter, and I do have pictures of this condo too, so I'll put them on the screen. But they make their way inside, and nothing seems amiss. Detectives and officers spread out. They're looking for people who are alive. The fact that there were plastic handcuffs and masks in the Jeep led them to believe there was some kind of hostage situation going on. So they go room by room, and they're not seeing any signs of Josh and Jeannie. Since they don't have a full search warrant, they can't search anything. They can only look with their eyes. Here's what they observed. A very organized living room. Remember, we're talking about Erica here. She's got OCD. She likes things in a particular order, so everything looks normal. There's a paper towel roll on the coffee table in the living room. That's probably the only thing out of place. And then there's some items on a table behind the couch. It looks like a cologne bottle, some keys, and a pen. Nothing really stood out. They make their way up to the upstairs bedroom. The bed is completely made. Everything looks put away. They look out on the balcony. There's nothing there. There is an attached bathroom, so they peek inside, and it looked clean. They stepped in. They saw the jacuzzi tub. And then they spot their first clue that something may not be right. But is it a clue of foul play or a woman that has severe OCD? Cleaning supplies right outside the bathroom door. Paper towels. Looks like it could have been a 6-pack. There's 2 missing. And we know there's 1 downstairs, so maybe that's not too much of a concern. There's garbage bags, Clorox bleach, and a bunch of other cleaning supplies. They head back downstairs, and they're looking at the small kitchen area. They see an open laptop on the counter with a pad of paper and a pen next to it on one side. On the other side, it looks like purchase orders, some USPS packing tape. These appeared to be items that BJ and Erica would use to send out merchandise in connection to their eBay store. So it looks like they were working on vacation. So could it be possible that they didn't have anything to do with Josh and Jeannie? Maybe Erica stole their IDs or got a hold of them somehow? But something's just not adding up. There's a glass dining table with some water bottles on it, some photos, a lighter, an ashtray, more keys, and a substance that looked like cocaine. There's also a random little note on the table. It says, it's a to-do list. It says stuff to do at the house, find jean shorts, hook up the cable, among other things that I can't see in this photo. So ordinary. Then one of the officers yells for Burnell to come quickly. He found something. Right underneath that glass table, there were 2 spent bullets. Upon closer inspection, they appear to be covered in blood and flesh. I'm not kidding. Here are the photos. This is what they look like when the officers look down through that glass table. And here they are up close. This is definitely enough for a full search warrant. One of these bullets looked like it had actually been taken out of someone's flesh. Meanwhile, BJ and Erica are booked for burglary, and they have all their personal belongings confiscated. those will be searched too. And it's clear to see that Erica's designer purse is full of what appears to be very expensive jewelry. We know that she's into collecting jewelry just like her mom, and she's got a lot of it, but why would you be carrying thousands of dollars worth of jewelry on vacation? They collect all the items for further inspection. She also is wearing a necklace when she's arrested, so that's taken as well. And here are some items from Erica's purse. There was a camera, a watch, the spent shell casings that I mentioned before, some gift cards, a Blockbuster video card, a Gap credit card, Old Navy card, a chapstick, some photos, and a folded up little, I don't know, like origami. She had this on her. It was full of pictures of her and BJ on trips to different places like Vegas, Virginia Beach, and Florida. And if you look closely, there's a little shell. It's actually a change purse, and inside are some pills. Now on to the full CSI search. They're looking for evidence in the Rainbow condo. Is there a connection between Erica, BJ, Joshua, and Jeannie? Well, as they rummage through the furniture and the closets, they noticed Erica had brought an abundance of items with her. In the corner of their unit, there was a stack of boxes filled with scrapbooking materials and other things used to make decorations. It looked like Erica had practically brought her entire house with her on vacation. She had meticulously documented every detail of her and BJ's relationship, from the mundane to the over-the-top. They find that Erica has actually brought a lot of items on this vacation, and they're in these big plastic storage containers, including the scrapbook from July 1999 through August 2001. It says Beej and Laney on the cover. Seems odd that she would carry these things around, but okay. They open it up, and it's full of pictures of previous trips that the couple has taken. One from June 2001 shows them together, and of course, Erica's wearing a Hooters shirt. But look, on the right it says, everyone settles in, even Bonnie and Clyde, with a picture of her hugging BJ. Bonnie and Clyde? Well, there's something to this, but at this point, seeing it makes Burnell question things even more. I can't forget to mention there were also pet pythons in a cooler in the bedroom. Yeah, we'll get to that. They brought their snakes on vacation. Lord help me. They wonder why they're coming up through people's toilets and stuff in other places when they're not supposed to be there. Then they find a connection. On the table behind the couch, Burnell picks up keys, and there's a rubber placard on it, and it says Atlantis. It's the condo building that Josh and Jeannie were staying at. Finally, there's an actual connection, even though it doesn't have like a unit number or anything. But there's more. A stack of pictures were on the dining table, and on top, I don't know if you're going to be familiar with this. If you're my age, you'll know, but there's like a sheet of thumbnail pictures of each picture, usually used to go back and get more prints of the ones you like. Well, even though these pictures are small, Burnell is looking at them, and he thinks he sees one that could be Josh and Jeannie. And sure enough, I swear this couldn't have come together more perfectly. He picks up the next picture in the stack, and it's literally a picture of Josh and Jeannie. And these pictures are inside BJ and Erica's condo rental. Wow, and they're from Erica's camera. The other pictures in the stack tell a story of everything BJ and Erica did on their trip to Ocean City. There were pictures of them at Hooters, at the beach, playing mini golf, all normal, so generic. And then this, a picture of the couple that's been missing for a week now. They did meet. They took pictures of them. And the cup, you can clearly see it's from Secrets. There's the logo. Not only that, look at this. Another picture of Josh and Jeannie, and this time it's on the balcony of their condo rental at Atlantis. Clearly, they didn't take this photo of themselves. It was either Erica or BJ. So they were there with them, back at their place. No wonder there were so many wine glasses there. Armed with this evidence, Burnell wants to try questioning his suspects. He runs a background check and finds out that BJ has quite an impressive resume. Navy SEAL, honorman at that. Coincidentally, though it's rare, Burnell had been in the Marines, and he too was an honorman. He hadn't met another one in his career, especially sitting across from him being questioned about a missing couple. He felt like maybe, just maybe, BJ would see him as an ally, a friend, a fellow comrade. He goes into the interview room. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. He introduces himself, and right off the bat, he lets BJ know that he's a fellow honorman. Well, BJ lawyers up right then and there. He's like, you want to know what happened? Ask my wife. I'm not saying another word. I want a lawyer. He refused to say anything else. This wasn't his first rodeo. This man had been in military prison. He had been through conditioning to the extreme, possibly torture scenarios that taught him to hold his tongue before betraying his country. So simple questioning like this, no match. He wasn't going to say a word. They just put him back in his cell and moved on to his wife. She was in the middle of a nervous breakdown, crying hysterically, saying she was going to die if she couldn't see her husband. She was kicking and acting crazy. But finally, Burnell was able to get her to relax long enough for her to ask him if he wanted to make a deal. She's like, I'll tell you about the missing couple if you drop the burglary charges. Well, that sounded like a plan, but Burnell was waiting for forensics to come back with more information on anything significant found at the Rainbow condominiums, so that he could use this as leverage against Erica. As the search was being carried out, it appeared that even though BJ and Erica were supposed to be on vacation, it looked like they were actually doing some remodeling of their unit. In the condo's main bathroom, you know, the one with the big nice tub, instead of relaxing in there, it looked to detectives as though drywall was being put up, there was spackle on the wall, and the bathroom was like in pristine condition. It seemed strange to them. Why would a couple spend their vacation doing this task? They began to wonder if they were trying to hide something. Was there something in the bathroom that they wanted to conceal? Oh, there was a lot. To the naked eye, the bathroom appeared to have nothing wrong with it. But as the technicians go down low and look underneath the vanity, there is a literal blood mark on the underside, as though someone had been hiding underneath and clearly bleeding and put their hand on top. At that point, they were onto something. So they really started to look in that area and they pull out the drawers. And sure enough, there's a drop of blood that had pooled between the back of the drawer. You can see it right here. So they fully remove the two drawers and more blood. The baseboards have spray marks on them. It's a little hard to see against the black bottom section, but with certain lighting, you can see there's a lot of blood here. And if you look lower, it's in the cracks of the tile underneath the drawers, right in the grout, essentially dyeing it red. When they measure the side of the wall where they see this pooled blood, they can tell at one point it was an inch deep before it was cleaned up. Wow. The team was shocked by the sheer quantity of blood in this bathroom. It indicated that this crime was extreme. It was brutal. There was no doubt in their minds that something ominous had occurred in this bathroom. They took samples from the scene to be further investigated. They weren't done. They were now finding blood all over. There was evidence of blood inside the jacuzzi tub and the drain. And after digging behind the freshly painted wall and drywall, the investigators find a bullet hole and a fragment. It went right through to the other side. You can see it right here. They dismantled the bathroom. They ripped out the vanity and they found even more evidence and dried blood flowing through the cracks underneath the sink. There was a new door put on. When they took out the drain covers on the sink, they were covered in blood. When they were doing this, there was also a clump of hair, and they went to pick it up and they found out it was attached to a piece of scalp. Unbelievable. The hot tub in this condo's bathroom, it overlooked the beach, and it's got these 2 glass panes, and they're covered with handprints. It looked like someone had been trapped inside and desperately banging on the glass for help. Oh my God. This terrified me so much because I can actually picture what could have happened in this bathroom. But why? Well, Burnell wants to find out, so he does what BJ told him to do. He asks Erica. He's like, sure, we can come up with the deal. What happened? Why were you in Ocean City? Let's start there. Erica all of a sudden becomes very talkative immediately. She explains why her and her husband had been there. She said that since their work life was so hectic, they hadn't been able to enjoy a proper honeymoon. Fortunately, Erica's father had come to the rescue and set them up in the suite at the Rainbow condominiums. And what about Josh and Jeannie? How did they fit into all of this? Burnell confronted Erica with Josh and Jeannie's pictures that they found in her condo rental. At this point, she has no choice but to admit that she and BJ had met them. You may have guessed it, but remember the couple that boarded the drunk bus? The ones without the exact change? That was Erica and BJ. Josh helped them that night. Erica told Burnell that they sat down next to them, introduced themselves, said, "Hi, I'm Erica with a K. This is my husband, BJ. And Jeannie said, "I'm Jeannie, and this is Josh." They were headed to Secrets, where BJ had promised Josh and Jeannie a drink for their generosity. The line outside was long. It took them over an hour to get in, and Erica explained she was having very bad anxiety. She takes Xanax to relax. She had some with her, and she had been taking more than usual and drinking. Once they were inside, they were having a great time. They were dancing, they were hanging out, until last call. They wanted to continue the party, so Erica suggested they all go back to their penthouse suite. That way they could take a dip in the hot tub, hang out, smoke some weed. She said she didn't smoke, but BJ did, and Josh had mentioned that he had some back at his condo. So the plan was stop by the Atlantis so that Jeannie and Josh could snag the weed, get their bathing suits, and then go back to Erica and BJ's. They left, loaded into the bus together, and went up to Josh and Jeannie's unit. They hung out for a bit. While the couple gathered what they needed, they drank some wine, and then they get back on the bus once again and went to their suite. But Erica said something happened. You remember those 2 weird 911 calls? I'm telling you, this story is deep. It's twisted. It's all over the place. That's why I wanted to do it. Well, Erica explains that they arrive at their suite around 2:30 in the morning, and Jeannie and Josh, they're so impressed. They're like, wow, this place is so nice. Erica got some beers, and everyone was just checking out the place. Then BJ, Jeannie, and Josh were sitting at the round glass table and smoking some weed. Jeannie, at one point, wants to get in her bikini, so Erica directs her over to the main bathroom up the stairs to change. Erica said she was just doing her own thing because BJ and Josh were still smoking. She was just tidying up, OCD and all that. She starts looking for her brown Hooters bag. You know how she gets when she can't find something. She gets major anxiety. So then when she's looking, she sees her red purse, her beloved favorite Coach purse. It was like a pet to her. She told Detective Burnell she loved Coach. She said she was addicted to Coach and that she even carries her pills in a little matching red Coach pouch inside the bigger red Coach purse. That's important. She goes on to explain the purse wasn't in the spot where she knows she put it. It had been moved, and she freaked out. She knew if she hadn't touched it, and there was people there that were drunk. So here she is. She's drunk on Xanax, who knows what else, and she's thinking someone stole the Hooters bag and moved her purse. So she went to look around. She was panicking when she didn't see the smaller bag that she keeps inside with all of her valuables, including a $10,000 ring that her grandma had given to her, in addition to $7,000 worth of other items. She was frantically trying to locate this bag. She said everyone was just laughing and hanging out, but she couldn't get past the fact that her things were missing. She started searching the place, her OCD's acting up, and she thought, you know what? I don't know this couple. They could clearly be conning us. Maybe they stole it. Jeannie left their site to go change. What if she'd taken Erica's things? That's when Erica said she went upstairs and made the first 911 call. She had shown Jeannie all of her stuff earlier in the night, including 200 Xanax pills, and now they're all gone? It had to be her. She was convinced of it. So she made that call at 3:01 a.m. Erica explained that she was on the phone and she heard someone pick up the other line. Remember her saying that? Like, oh, I think someone's listening. She was paranoid. She asked the operator for a direct number and then she hung up. That's when she said she heard footsteps. So she hid. I'm sitting here thinking, you have a literal Navy SEAL husband and weapons. Why would you be hiding? But drugs. Remember I told you I was watching Taylor Show Business when I thought about this case again? Well, Erica says that some time went by, she calls 911 again, and we know that either she hung up or the line went dead before the officers could be requested. She explained that Josh came upstairs. He was either going to change or to check on her, and he asked her if everything was okay. But then she claimed he started to flirt with her and even tried to kiss her. She kind of goes off saying, my stuff is missing. And Josh was like, what do you mean? Well, Erica says that she was angry and yelling, and that's when BJ heard. So BJ and Jeannie run upstairs. They're like, what's going on? And Erica tells the detective, I think BJ thought that Josh was trying to pull some moves on me because he's like, what the F is going on? And that's when she relayed what had happened. Her valuables were missing. BJ got right in Josh's face, yelling at him, where's my wife's stuff? Erica explained that BJ was demanding that Josh and Jeannie take off their clothes to prove that they weren't stashing the item somewhere. In fear, they did what they were told to do. They were trembling. They were upset. Jeannie was almost in tears. It was clear they didn't have anything on them. And all of a sudden, Erica said that the couple just ran into the bathroom and locked the door. Remember the handprints on the window? Perhaps this is when they were attempting to make a run for it, but BJ, now in a rage, wanted them out, and he kept pounding on the door to no avail. That's when BJ grabbed a gun, and he shot right through the door. Well, I guess that's why they had to remove it and replace it. Erica says BJ was aiming for the doorknob, But once the door was open, they realized that the bullet had accidentally hit Josh in the arm. He was now in more of a frantic mode. He was holding it with a towel to get it to stop bleeding, and Jeannie was terrified. She was screaming and hiding under the vanity. Erica said that BJ was just telling her to shut up, but she wouldn't. That's when Josh asked BJ, "Why are you doing this?" And out of nowhere, to Erica's surprise, BJ replied, "See you later, before shooting Josh right in the head in front of his girlfriend. Jeannie was so fearful at this point. Erica recalled how terrified this poor woman was. She had just witnessed her boyfriend being executed right in front of her. She was trying to protect herself, even using her boyfriend's body as a shield. She was trying to squeeze further and further back as far as she could into the tiniest space, whimpering like a little baby. That's what Erica said. And Erica, she was just frozen. She didn't know what to do. She said it was self-defense. At that point, she's rummaging through the clothing that this couple had just removed from their bodies, and she finds out the purse isn't there. She said she didn't actually know that Josh was dead. It was all a blur. When she turned around and realized what happened, she said she looked at BJ and said, "What the F did you do?" She got a glimpse into the bathroom and saw that Josh was foaming at the mouth with blood. Erica said at that point, she peed her pants. When BJ saw it, he started to make fun of her. All of a sudden, Erica tells detectives that BJ turned the gun on Jeannie and tried to shoot her, but he missed. That's the bullet that went through the wall. And then he went over there, walked up to her at point-blank range, and shot her in the left shoulder. Erica said there was blood everywhere. It was on the walls, the tub, all over the floors. Burnell is still listening, but he's thinking a .357 Magnum, which are where the bullets came from. That's the kind of gun. It wouldn't have caused such a huge amount of blood spatter. So he's already having doubts about this version of the story, but he continued to listen. Erica said both BJ and her were pacing in and out of the bathroom, trying to figure out what they were going to do next. However, there was no sign of any blood outside that bathroom. There was a light-colored carpet, no blood at all. At this point, she tells them she packed walkie-talkies, and BJ took one of them and she took the other, and he left to go make sure that no cops had heard the gunshots. And she was looking for her items all over, and she ends up finding them under the bed. Well, he knows this is a lie because he had pictures of the bed, and they also measured it. It was only like an inch from the floor. There's no way all of her items were underneath that bed. That's when she tells BJ over the walkie-talkie, "I found my purse." He comes back and he tells her that the bodies are going to start smelling really bad, so they have to get rid of them fast. She said she didn't know what to do. BJ put a gun to her head and forced her to help him. Erica confessed to helping BJ dispose of Josh and Jeannie's body in the most gruesome way. She said that they had to cut them into pieces. So they placed them in the jacuzzi tub, and they did exactly that, carefully separating their heads and their limbs. At one point, she said that BJ was butt naked with blood all over him and had a huge hard that he was getting off on all this. Organs were floating in the bloody bathtub, and he even wanted to cook one of the legs. Detective Burnell couldn't believe what he was hearing, and he wanted to clarify if any human remains had been cooked. She said no, not that she knew of, that she didn't eat or cook anything, but she wouldn't give a definite answer on her husband's actions. She said she was sent out to the store to get garbage bags, so she did. Then they started placing the parts in separate bags, but Josh's torso wouldn't fit. So BJ told Erica to go get one of his military canvas bags, and that is where BJ placed the torso. They loaded the bags in the Jeep. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and Erica said she took a shower, and then they drove to a nearby dumpster and just threw the bodies in there. Erica admitted that both her and BJ, they hadn't slept in over 24 hours at this point, and she was like in and out of sleeping while BJ was driving around to dispose of the bags. And that the next day, they went to Home Depot and got all those supplies to fix everything and clean the bathroom. Wow, this is a lot for someone to take in. For someone that's so devoted to her husband, it's also very odd that she's just so easy to pin it all on him. But he was a Navy SEAL. He was okay with killing people with his bare hands. He was a big guy on drugs. Not to mention, when they were booking him, they took off his clothing to check his body, and they noted he had a very large tattoo of a swastika right on his chest. Yeah, I'm sure that can say a lot of things about him, but for one, Burnell definitely thought it leaned towards him having a very violent nature. This man was strapped when they found him and Erica robbing the Hooters. He was dishonorably discharged and spent time in prison. No doubt he was dangerous. Erica, on the other hand, was barely 100 pounds. She was thin, tiny, bubbly, flirtatious during the interview. Despite the gravity of the situation, she seemed to be in her own little world, not even taking it seriously. She appeared oblivious to the seriousness of what she just admitted to the detectives. She actually thanked them. She said she was so appreciative that they caught them stealing so that she could break free of BJ's control. It did seem like Erica had got caught up in a very toxic relationship, but what was more important was finding Jeannie and Josh. So detectives went down to check the Rainbow condo dumpsters. They were hoping that they would find the remains so that they could have them DNA tested. Then they would have more confidence in Erica's story and also proof that they were indeed deceased. But they didn't find anything in those dumpsters. So they go back and they ask Erica for more information. Which dumpster was it? And she agreed to show them. It's the mid-morning of June 1st by now. They're driving over to a beach in Delaware. She points them to a dumpster and she said, that's the one. They search it and there's no bodies. However, there is carpet, drywall, things like that, but no bodies. She has them on a wild goose chase. They drive to a few more dumpsters in the area and still nothing. So they start to think, Erica is lying. How much is she lying about? So they turn up the heat. They tell her, we don't believe you. And if you don't cooperate, then we're going to go ahead and charge you with murder. She's like, okay, I will tell you everything, but I need to have immunity. They want to find Jeannie and Josh, so they have no choice. They agree to give her immunity if she can tell them where the bodies are. She tells them that they took them to all these different dumpsters all throughout Delaware and Maryland and beyond, and that BJ used to work for grocery stores. Grocery store dumpsters were better because they get picked up more frequently because of how much waste that they have with all the food going bad, and they also smell, so no one would suspect anything. So they dump them in grocery store dumpsters. When Erica's returned to jail, she gets her one phone call, and of course, she calls her daddy. Cookie and Mitch, they were at Memory Lane scrapbooking store, expecting Erica and BJ back that night, actually. Erica had told Cookie they were stopping by a reptile show and then heading back. When she saw the phone ring, she never expected to hear Erica screaming on the other end. Mitch was outside at the time. He heard her scream, turned around, and realized it was his wife. She was standing there white as a ghost. He rushed back in, and he's like, what's wrong? She couldn't speak. She just handed him the phone. Erica's on the other line. She's saying, please get here as fast as you can. She explained that she had been booked for burglary. Mitch is in utter disbelief. The first thought he had was, wow, BJ really effed up his daughter's life. As soon as he hung up, he hopped on a private jet and started calling lawyers on his way to Ocean City with his wife. What would you do if this was your kid? I like asking these questions. I'm just wondering. He called around and he was referred to a man named Arcangelo Tuminelli. The guy was highly recommended. Mitch had no idea what Erica was looking at as far as the charges were concerned, but it became crystal clear when the lawyer started to dig in. This was more than burglary. The news was already out that Erica and her husband were suspected to be the killers in a double murder and dismemberment of a missing vacationing couple, and that it happened at the Rainbow condominium, the place that Mitch's friend owned. It was all too much. Mitch knew this much to be true. He told the lawyer this was all because of BJ. He knew from the moment he met him that he was trouble. Prison was no place for his little girl, and he was going to do whatever it took to get her back home. Detectives contact the sanitation department telling them what is going on, wanting to figure out the garbage routes. Luckily, the waste management industry is very organized. They basically know all of the routes where each dumpster goes and which section of this huge landfill that the trash would be located. The only thing is they need to know specifics on when the bodies were actually deposited into the receptacles. That matters in figuring out where they would be now in the landfill. This is a lot of work. It takes until afternoon, June 3rd, to narrow down where this trash would be. The landfill was about 45 minutes away, and if you had never smelled hot garbage, I don't know, just imagine the worst smell. vomit, rotten meat, dead animals. Now combine all of that with 100-degree weather, and you'd be close to what it was like at that landfill. Burnell arrived around 4:30. It was humid, rancid smelling. There were seagulls, rotten food, bugs, hornets flying around, and it was vast. Look at it. These are the actual police photos. This place is massive. They had backhoes out there. They had detectives wearing protective gear. They were diligently sifting through mounds of rotting garbage. It was nasty. It smelled so bad that even cadaver dogs couldn't do their job because they couldn't tell the difference between a dead body and just garbage. But about an hour into the search, that's when they spot something. It looked like a leg. I am going to be blurring it here, but you can still see how it stands out among the trash. Once this was discovered, everything stood still. It was unbelievable. They know that it must be Jeannie or Josh, and it intensifies the search. But hours pass, and they still haven't found anything. But finally, the next part, a human arm, then another arm with a hand attached. And when they give it a closer look, they realize it has a tattoo on it. And yes, it's the karate logo. It's Josh's arm. Later, they locate the canvas duffel bag. It's 5 feet in length, and inside was Josh's torso wrapped up in blankets that came from the Rainbow condominium unit. It's obvious that they have found Josh and Jeannie, or what's left of them. But they still had to officially confirm it with DNA analysis. So the remains were sent for testing. They continued to search, but they could not go into a second day. It was unbearable. They had enough to know that they could charge BJ and Erica with murder. It's so sad. They wanted to continue. They really did. Burnell felt awful. He wondered if they kept going, would they find everything? He wanted to for Jeannie and Josh's family's sake. But it wasn't possible. Joel Todd was the prosecuting attorney on the case. He was very experienced, he was knowledgeable, a veteran lawyer, and on Monday, June 3rd, was the day that BJ and Erica were going to be at their first hearing in front of a judge. The search of the Rainbow condominium was still going, and this case was about to really intensify. I know it already seems like we know exactly what happened. A domineering, evil, crazy, ex-Navy SEAL, drug-induced, rage husband killed 2 people. But just wait, because it's worse. Here's the thing. BJ wasn't talking. Erica was. He had a court-appointed attorney. She had the best that her daddy could afford. Erica's attorney made a deal. If she was telling the truth, which they would confirm via polygraph, then she would not be held for the murders, only charged with gun possession, illegal disposal of bodies, but neither one of them were getting out on bond, that's for sure. Meanwhile, Mitch is working with the lawyer. He's trying to make sure that Erica didn't have to see the inside of a prison. It was decided by the prosecutor after deals were discussed and circumstances were discussed that BJ and Erica would be tried separately in 2 trials. Erica would testify against BJ in return for lesser charges. Now they had to build cases against them. This was a request by Josh and Jeannie's family. Speaking of their families, they were beyond devastated. Poor little Zach. His mom didn't know how to tell him. His father was never coming home. His mom and his stepdad, they sat him down. They told him, "Your dad is gone." And he was speechless. He walked out of the house. He went to his little tire swing and he was just swinging in the yard for hours, not saying a word. This poor family had lost 2 people in 2 years. Both were murdered and dismembered. No justice. In either case, it was a lot to take in. The autopsies were being conducted on the remains, and the pathologist discovered a bullet fragment still stuck inside Josh's torso near the shoulder area. That was it. They determined he died as a result of homicide. Forensic evidence for Jeannie was scarce. They only had one of her legs. However, in order to get it to be homicide, the pathologist determined that her leg had been removed from her body, and the bleeding would not have stopped unless medical attention was given. Therefore, she died as a result of a homicide. Erica had not stopped talking since the arrest. She had given detectives a lot of information about her and BJ's relationship. She explained that once they got together, it was a constant party, that he introduced her to drugs, to snorting her anxiety drugs instead of just taking them the way they were prescribed. This was the beginning of what she said became a full-blown addiction, that her life just spiraled out of control because she wanted to appease her controlling husband, and that all of this in the beginning had to do with him cheating. It's when he had to live in Arkansas for a few weeks after they were married. She found emails on his computer going back and forth with some girl. It was October of 1999. This is what she said sent her into the deepest depression. She was obsessed with making sure BJ wasn't with another woman. She followed him. She listened to his phone calls. She snooped in all of his stuff. And finally, she even spoke to the woman herself. And she confirmed it was true. She had slept with BJ. She was able to provide information that only someone would know if they had actually been with him. Erica said this caused her to go into clinical depression. She was taking Xanax and Valium. And then, of course, at some point, BJ told her to snort it and to drink alcohol. Well, after the cheating, Erica could not be away from BJ. She said she just didn't trust him, so she became obsessed about where he was going, what he was doing, and that's why she would show up at his SEAL trainings. She knew that he had a violent nature because at one point, to stop her from doing this, BJ emails the mistress. And he says, quote, "Hey, bitch, you better tell my wife I never effed you. And if you don't call her and tell her that it was all a lie, I'll drive down to Arkansas and amputate your bastard kids with a butter knife. And then I'll board up the windows and doors and torch your house." He signed it, "Your worst enemy, BJ." Erica also explained that she wanted to please BJ so that he wouldn't have reasons to cheat. So she went along with everything that turned him on. It wasn't sex anymore. It was getting in trouble. He would deliberately try to get cops to chase him. He had that souped up car. He would pull up and taunt officers. He would be going over 100 miles an hour, and Erica said she even peed her pants once. That's what got him revved up for sex. Then they graduated to cocaine and ecstasy. She said that they were doing it every night of the week. She told the detectives how he made her get an abortion after he tricked her. First he said, "I want to have kids," so they weren't being careful on purpose. Erica ends up getting pregnant. She's excited to tell him, and he says, "I don't want kids. You better remove it or I'll remove it with a coat hanger." She felt like she had no choice. And after she went through with it, he praised her. And he said that having this procedure showed her loyalty. He was testing her. He wanted her to get pregnant on purpose just to see if she would get rid of the baby for him. Erica explains that she got a cross tattoo on her abdomen to remember the baby. He was also obsessed with Hitler, and the swastika tattoo was because he believed in everything Hitler stood for. He even named one of their snakes after him, and he liked snakes because they were the devil's creature. The other ones were named HIV and Bonnie and Clyde. Recall that picture? Here they are, Bonnie and Clyde settling in. She was referring to the snakes. She said that he was very racist. He would call her the N-word because of her hair. It was kinky curly. He would also yell racist comments out the window at random people and threaten to shoot them, even saying that if he killed them, no one would miss them because essentially they weren't white. Wow, that is sick. That is sick. All of this is. He would also attack her weight. She was rail thin because BJ apparently would call her a fat ass and tell her she was overweight. That fueled her need to constantly use drugs because it helped her to stay thin. She was so into this addiction. Remember that South America trip that her dad funded? Well, they picked Chile for a reason because they brought back a cooler full of pills. Xanax and Valium were only $90 for $1. And to fund their habit, stealing. It was the best of both. It would turn BJ on and pay for them to continue their sex, drugs, and partying. He was also a locksmith in the past, and he could pick any lock. So at first it began with breaking into ATMs. It started small, but then it escalated to different stores, and since it was making BJ happy, she went along with it. Then it was the threesomes. She explained that BJ insisted that in order to be the cool wife, she had to let him go to strip clubs and bring other girls into the bedroom. They had rules, she said, and one of the reasons they started to go to Hooters was so that she could pick out girls for them. This evolved into selling the merchandise on their eBay business. But then ultimately, they began stealing the Hooters clothes, and they hit up a number of these stores without getting caught. Then she found out that BJ had cheated on her again, and it was another downward spiral. She wanted his love and approval all the time. She felt like no one else would ever love her, and that's why she stayed. Things had gotten mundane lately before their trip to Ocean City. She persuaded her dad to get them a place so that she could get away. She said BJ didn't want to have sex with her for months. He needed a thrill. New places, new people, new Hooters to steal from. Then, about the killings. It was all BJ. Erica said she had no idea he was going to do that, but he became an animal. After he cut them up, he held both of their heads in his hands and wanted Erica to take a picture of him. She said she saw him there, standing over this blood-filled tub, and she vomited. Just an evil man, right? It seems like it. When the bullet fragment that was located inside Josh's torso was tested, it matched Erica's .357 revolver. That gun was found on her when she was robbing the Hooters restaurant. This was the first of many clues that Erica may have way more to do with Josh and Jeannie's murder than she was letting on. BJ had his own weapons. Yes, he could have used her handgun in the spur of the moment. Like Erica said, it just happened out of nowhere. But there was more. A lot more. They'd collected so much evidence, and it was telling a very different story than Erica's. First of all, when they were going through all the photographs that had been taken, they put them in chronological order. As they looked closely, they realized that Josh's dragon ring, it can clearly be seen in this photo on his finger from when Jeannie and him were at the Secrets bar. It was found among the jewelry that was collected, and it was indexed. It was also analyzed for DNA, and it had Josh's blood on that ring, still on the ring after it was taken from Erica's necklace. Erica was wearing this bloody ring around her neck on a necklace when she was arrested. As they look closer at the pictures in the timeline order, they discover a horrifying fact. Erica is wearing Josh's blood-covered ring on her necklace after they were reported missing. This was a trophy to her. She was a collector, and she was donning a dead man's ring. Then there's the knife. The one that was found on her at Hooters, it tested positive for Jeannie and Josh's DNA. There was still human tissue stuck on the serrated blade. It was her .357 handgun that was used in connection to this crime. She had the obsession with Hooters merch. It was her wearing Hooters shirts in almost every picture. But not only that, she documented everything in her and BJ's life since the day they got together, and she kept documenting everything. Even BJ standing in front of the Home Depot, getting the supplies that they were going to use to cover up their crime. She collected Jeannie and Josh's IDs. She kept them as tokens to remember their crime spree. It was her purse that the couple supposedly stole that caused this whole situation to escalate. It seemed like more of a plan than unfortunate circumstances. But Erica was willing to take that polygraph, and she was going to testify against her husband. She just had to take the pre-polygraph interview where they ask you a bunch of questions that are already prepared to prepare you for the actual test. Well, they thought this was only going to be about an hour or so since they already went over and agreed upon the questions. It took 4 hours. And when the administrator came back out, she said she couldn't go forward with the test. Erica, apparently being afraid of getting caught in a lie, admitted she helped in the killings, even orchestrated them. Her lawyer was floored. Erica was extremely nervous. She was afraid. She didn't want the truth to be revealed in this polygraph exam, so she changed her story again. Oh, and this went on. She changed her story several times. But during this interview, Erica relayed a chilling tale of what happened after BJ shot Jeannie. She said that he ordered her to make sure that Jeannie was dead. And without even checking for a pulse, Erica stabbed her and slit her throat. When she was recounting the event, Erica said she was shocked at how much pressure it took to pierce through Jeannie's skin. Then she admitted to stabbing Jeannie in the chest, all while she was trying to hide underneath that vanity. The deal was off the table. She and BJ would be tried for murder in separate trials. BJ's was first, April 2003. Now that the deal was off, Erica wasn't going to be able to be allowed to testify against her husband. BJ never talked. It was all Erica. He never admitted to a thing. As a matter of fact, all he ever said was, if you want to know what happened, ask my wife. His public defender pinned it all on her. The prosecution had a difficult time making their case because there wasn't that much concrete evidence against BJ. It was all circumstantial. But there was a lot more direct evidence against Erica. The biggest shock was when BJ took the stand and spoke for the first time. His version of events were a lot different. Most importantly, he explained he didn't kill Jeannie and Josh. His wife did. He said, when they left Secrets, he decided he hadn't slept in a while. He was really tired. He was going to go take a nap while Erica and Josh and Jeannie went back to the other condo to get their bikinis and the weed. And then they were going to bring it back over to the Rainbow condos. Well, he goes back alone as Erica heads over to the Atlantis. And he realizes when he gets to the door, he doesn't have the key. He's pissed. He's too tired to deal with it. So he goes into the Jeep and he passes out. The next thing he knows, there's banging on the window and it's his wife. He doesn't remember what time it was. At this point, she's just telling him, "We need to leave." She said, "We have a problem," and she needs his help. He said he is half asleep at this point, still coming off drugs and alcohol. She was saying all kinds of things, but it was clear to him that she had hurt someone. He followed her up to the condo and into the bathroom, and that is when he saw the two people that they had met earlier on the bus. He is a trained medic. He said his first instinct was to check their pulses, and he did, and they were deceased. And he realized that his wife had done this, and he's sitting on the bed with his head in his hands, not knowing what to do. He didn't know what happened. He didn't witness anything. He didn't know if she snapped, if there was a reason why all this happened, but he was loyal to his wife. And he knew that he had to help her. He admitted it, that it was his idea to cut up and dispose of the bodies in different dumpsters. It wasn't his gun. He didn't collect or save any tokens like Erica did, and he never admitted to anything. The jury ends up clearing him on all charges against Josh, but they can't rule out his involvement in Jeannie's death because no one knows how she died. He is convicted on second-degree murder and first-degree assault for Jeannie's death, sentenced to 38 years in prison with the possibility of parole. Well, Josh's family was not okay with this. His brother Mark was interviewed by the press almost in tears. He stated that there is no justice, that they took away a good brother. But Erica's trial was next, June 3rd, 2003. In addition to her confession to stabbing Jeannie, there was a wealth of evidence that the state had to ensure a conviction in this double murder trial. Forensic evidence at the crime scene linked Erica to this crime, and the couple's stolen credit cards, and the property she had in her possession. But Erica attempted to convince the detectives that she was an abused spouse. But those that were close to Erica and BJ, they painted a much different picture of their marriage. According to those aware of the couple's relationship, Erica wasn't the victim. She was the aggressor. The pictures of Erica and BJ that they took in Ocean City before the murder of Josh and Jeannie, it was of a happy couple enjoying their vacation. And then after the murders, they still took photos. The same type of photos of them enjoying their vacation like nothing happened. It didn't show her being scared. Actually, she appeared to be more relaxed, not living in fear of her husband at all. It depicted a woman who was content and happy to be on the beach with her husband. Then a witness came forward. Her name is Melissa Seeley. It was Tuesday in the middle of the night on May 28th, a few days after Josh and Jeannie met up with Erica and BJ. Melissa looks at her phone because it keeps ringing, and she realizes she has 16 missed calls from her friend Todd. He is wasted. He is begging Melissa to please come meet him and his friends out in Ocean City. They got a flat tire and they need help. She's in Delaware, 30 minutes away, but she agrees. She pulls up. She sees the blue Jeep on a jack, and she fixes the tire. She's introduced to BJ and Erica. Erica seemed completely out of it. But then all of a sudden, she snapped out of that and said, "I'm so thankful. Can we buy you a drink?" But something about the way she looked seemed weird to Melissa. She's like, "You know what? I'd rather not." But the three of them, it was like 3 against 1, they convinced Melissa to just have one drink. So they went to a close by bar. It was called Fishtails. There are pictures of Melissa and them at this bar. Melissa explained to the jury she didn't want to take photos. They were complete strangers. But it was Erica who kept on insisting that she had photos with her. Later on, Melissa wanted to leave again, and she was trying to. But Erica kept insisting to come back to their condo. She was making all sorts of excuses. "Can you please drive us? Because we don't want to drunk drive." And she was just desperate and begging them. That's when Melissa hears BJ say something under his breath. Something like, "I can't control my wife." And he said something like, "I listen to her because she's got a gun and she'll kill a cop." Melissa wants to get out of there. She's with these strangers that are totally out of their minds at this point, totally drunk, wasted on drugs. She doesn't know what's going on. But she agrees that her and Todd can follow them back to their condo to make sure they're there safely. It's only a few minutes away. When she gets there, BJ is banging on her window saying, "Please, please, you gotta help. Erica's passed out. I need help getting her up to the room." Really? She's like 100 pounds. He can't carry her himself anyway. They get inside of the penthouse, and it's like Erica snapped out of it. She's like, "Do you want a tour?" She's being all nice to Melissa. Of course, Melissa's pretty impressed by the building. Erica's bragging that her dad built it, and she's taking her on a tour. And the guys were getting a beer. Listen to what happens next. All of a sudden, Erica is like, "I want to show you this ring that my grandma gave me." "Oh no, I can't find my purse." The same thing again. Melissa's like, she was frantically looking around, saying, I need it now. It's so important. Melissa jumped into action. She's trying to help. She's hoping that the stranger will calm down. That's when she noticed the door to the bathroom was not on the hinges. It was leaning up against the door frame and it looked like it had a bullet hole through it. So she makes her way back to the living room. She wants to get out of there. And that's when Erica starts insinuating that Melissa stole her purse. She's yelling to BJ, saying, this lady's trying to run some con on us. She took all of our valuables, all of our drugs. I don't know this woman. Melissa's just sitting there insisting she did not take her purse. At this point, BJ pulls out a gun. And he says, I've already killed 2 people and I'm not afraid to do it again. However, in the midst of all of this going on, BJ lifts up a couch cushion and there's Erica's purse. All of a sudden, she snaps out of it. She's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for finding my purse. Does this make sense now? It's a ruse. Erica was hiding her own purse. It's all coming together. Hide your purse, get your husband riled up, somebody stole it, kill people. There was so much more. Witness after witness ripped Erica apart. It didn't seem like she just had OCD. It was more like borderline personality disorder with psychosis, drug-induced as well. There were stories of how Erica could not accept rejection. To the point where, remember her boyfriend that left her right before she met BJ? She was at a club and she slammed her head into a brick wall repeatedly until it cracked open and was bleeding. It was for attention. Once she had BJ in her claws, she would not let him do anything. She controlled his every move, would threaten to hurt herself if he didn't come home. It was her plan to get him kicked out of the military, constantly making a scene, barging into his meetings, finding out where he was at confidential assignments, and ruining his career so that he would have no choice but to be with her 24/7. She didn't want him to get an honorable discharge because that would take too long. With every one of her threats, BJ got more and more caught in the middle. He wanted his career, but he also didn't want to walk in and find his wife dead on the floor because he wouldn't leave in that instant to be by her side. Because it was always something. Another Navy SEAL wife came forward and she said that BJ was not a violent person. She was a former friend that knew him before Erica. Her hubby was one of his SEAL buddies. She said BJ was shy. Erica changed everything. She was obsessed with him. She told this woman not to look at BJ and never to talk to him. This was after a normal interaction with BJ, someone that she had known for years, and Erica just came into his life. One time, he was only 10 minutes late from coming home from hanging out with a friend. Erica stormed in to this other Navy SEAL's apartment, screaming at him and his wife, throwing food on the floor and saying, "Where is he?" They were like, "Calm the F down. He's about to pull up." She would constantly call his phone over and over again, 20 times back to back in an amount of minutes. So much so, he had to shut his phone off. This woman also confirmed that it was Erica's idea to get an abortion because she was doing so many drugs, she thought that the child would turn out having issues, and that her therapist even agreed. BJ's mom took the stand. She talked about how Erica pulled a gun on her when she was trying to come to her son's rescue when he was imprisoned in the military. She did that. She said her son was a changed person ever since Erica came into his life. There was so much evidence against this woman. So much evidence. For example, remember the glass windows near the hot tub? I told you there were handprints on the inside. Well, there were handprints on the outside as well. Why is this important? Because they believe that with walkie-talkies, Erica was outside directing BJ to where Jeannie and Josh were in the bathroom. She was his eyes. They did this. But it was BJ's testimony that sealed her fate. He told the same story that he told at his own trial, that he had nothing to do with the murders, but he went into way more detail this time. Here are some of the things that came out. He wasn't allowed to talk to anyone, not even his own family. They weren't allowed to have the color purple on anything in their house, anywhere, nothing, because one of his ex-girlfriends loved the color purple. Erica wasn't skinny because he would force her not to eat. It was because she would refuse to eat if he wouldn't come home. She would literally starve herself until he came back BJ also said that Erica stabbed Jeannie in the side in the exact same place where Erica got a tattoo a couple days after the killing. A tattoo to remember the murder, just like she got after the abortion. This time it was a cobra. She also literally broke off a piece of the bathroom door and brought it with her to the hardware store and told the lady that was helping them, "This is all that's left of our door this weekend." She wanted to match the paint. They ended up getting an entire new door, but she was bragging. She kept the IDs, the ring, the shell casings, all to document her crimes. He told the jury that despite the smiling in the pictures he took with her, he wasn't a happy person. He knew what he did was wrong. He shouldn't have helped her dispose of the bodies. The prosecution made a point to say that the only reason Melissa and Todd were alive is because BJ wasn't passed out in the Jeep this time, that Erica was playing her same ruse, losing her purse, and BJ was the one that found it. If he wouldn't have been there, they don't know what would have happened. Erica probably would have killed them like she had done before. In closing, the prosecutor showed a slideshow of the pictures of Erica eating crab legs right after the murders and the ring on her neck as a token of what she was proud that she had done. A picture of her fixing the bathroom, going to Home Depot. She was documenting her little fantasy of being Bonnie and Clyde, the name that she picked for her pythons. She was evil, calculated, controlling, and guilty. She was the mastermind. She was the puppet master. According to Erica's defense team, though, she only participated in the murders out of fear, as a woman under her husband's control. However, the physical evidence and Erica's own admissions contradicted this claim. The jury ultimately found Erica guilty on both counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Jeannie and Josh. The judge sentenced her to life plus 20 years. 2 years after Erica and BJ were convicted, Eugene McCollum was arrested for several murders, and he was named the most likely suspect in the murder of Josh's niece, Kelly. He was convicted of 2 murders and sentenced to life in prison. However, just like in BJ's case with Josh, this murderer was never charged for Kelly's murder or any of the other countless ones he could have committed. In his years of experience, the lead detective, Scott Burnell, had never encountered individuals as cruel as BJ and Erica. Even now, he still remembers the shock and disgust that he felt when he was looking at that crime scene. The amount of violence and disregard for human life was too much to bear. I want to tell you something that's very important. But before I do, I want to say, to me, both of them did this. I think they were in a toxic relationship and they fed off each other and they were on drugs. And this is why the Taylorship business case reminded me so much of this, the dismemberment, the drugs, just the craziness of everything. These people that just don't even seem like they're human. They're animals, but they knew what they were doing and they wanted to do it. And I truly believe that Erica was just a girl that got whatever she wanted. And when she didn't get it, she also got what she wanted because she would force it to happen. Well, after all of this, I have some good news. Zachary Ford, Josh's son, life was so difficult without his dad. He couldn't say his dad's name for years because it would just instantly bring him to tears. It brought me to tears listening to him say this. He had a passion for sports. He dreamed of becoming a professional athlete in Boston. But when his father was murdered, that changed. He decided to pursue a path of justice and honor instead. He wanted to become a criminal prosecutor so that he could make sure that his father's death was not in vain. He wanted to ensure that those who commit such heinous crimes are brought to justice. In 2002, BJ was up for parole, but Zachary Ford was determined to keep him behind bars. It was the 20th anniversary of the murders of Joshua and Jeannie, and Zachary was going to make sure that justice was served. He attended the parole hearing, and he did everything he could to make sure that BJ remained behind bars. From testifying to speaking to the media, his efforts were successful, and BJ was denied parole. His next hearing is in 2030, but there's a chance that he'll be released before then. Meanwhile, little Miss Erica will be eligible for parole next year. Zach still has his dad's dragon ring that Josh used to wear, that he was wearing when he was murdered. And it's a daily reminder that his life has been changed forever. But he cherishes that ring. Whenever he needs a reminder of his father, he just holds on to it. And that keeps his memory alive. The tragic deaths of Joshua Ford and Jeannie Crutchley marked the end of two remarkable lives. Joshua helped anyone, regardless of their situation. And on that fateful night in May of 2002, Josh saw a couple in need on that bus, and he decided to help them. Neither he nor Jeannie knew that these people had malicious intentions. Zachary even looks back on his wedding day with a heavy heart, knowing his father couldn't be present. It's difficult to bear that his father will never meet his children or his grandchildren, and he'll do everything in his power to ensure his father's legacy lives on. I know this has been a very long video. It highlights some of the most depraved hearts and minds, senseless crimes committed for some sick pleasure. I don't even like doing these kind of cases. I had an Evil Minds playlist and I stopped doing it after like 3 videos because it's a lot. All of these cases are evil, but there's a certain type of evil. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.